Like, so why buy?
Um, it's we'll see. This seems like
So why
this
buy?
seems like it might be a big boon for the Trump is a peace through strength president. Okay. Iran's lack of escalation, like Iran's lack of presenting a significant deterrence.
Like, so why buy?
Seems like this, at least for this back and forth with America and Iran, feels as though maybe Trump will pack this up. I don't know. If he does this, he will get a tremendous boost from this. Okay? He'll say, you see, we showed our military strength. We got a big W here. We violated Iran's numerous red lines. We violated Iran's sovereignty, and they didn't want the fucking smoke and couldn't do anything to us. And now we have to stop Israel. Like, we're going to tell Israel to fucking back down, and Israel will actually back down. Well, if they will, we'll see. If there is a real ambition here, if this isn't just about destabilization, if this isn't about destabilization, if this is not about destabilization, this is where it'll end. Okay? But Trump has so far used the negotiations process to basically do whatever the fuck they want. They've used the negotiations process to continue doing more war, working towards a stabilization effort. To be honest, I'm shocked the market didn't crash today. I don't think Wall Street thinks Iran is going to seriously retaliate. They're probably right, to be honest. I mean, Iran signaled that their retaliation was going to be very limited. A White House official told me that Trump's goal now is to end the war, and he's going to make it clear to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, we want a deal and don't want any more war, the official said. Here is Mossad's very own Barak Ravid. Trump calls for ending the war after Iran's retaliatory missile attack. His story for Axios. Israeli agent Barak Ravid reporting for Axios. How can we be sure he actually wants to end the conflict? We have no assurances, man. Trump's word means nothing. America's word means nothing. Israel's word means something. It means the exact opposite. Okay? America's word usually means the exact opposite as well. So we shall see. We shall see. From this point on, if Israel has more destabilization in mind for Iran, they will continue escalating the conflict, which will, of course, provoke even more ballistic missiles being lobbed in the direction of Tel Aviv. And that is unsustainable for Israel without, I don't know, America entering the conflict and redirecting the Iranian military response at American targets instead. Because if they're too busy defending themselves against like American bombing campaigns, that will be overwhelming. saying, okay, do not misunderstand my statement here. Israel clearly cannot continue withstanding ballistic missile strikes from Iran unless America also joins the bombing campaigns and starts targeting ballistic missile launchers and takes advantage of the air superiority that Israel and America has created, at least in certain parts of Iran. Okay? That's the reason why Israel's goal in this equation is to bring America into the forefront, is to forcibly bring America and the American military into its war with Iran. Israel wants more involvement from America so that Iran's attention is shifted away from Israel towards the United States of America. Israel wants a costly and endless military campaign against Iran so that they can destabilize the Iranian government and turn it into a fucking fail state. Do you understand? It's a matter of whether or not Trump is also invested enough in Israel's goals here. If Israel continues escalating its bombing campaigns and Iran continues striking Israel and punishing Israel, okay, then either Israel will have to stand down or it will try to do its very best to bring America into the conflict again. I said this last week when we saw the Iranian ballistic missiles and the amount that they were sending, the amount of ballistic missiles that Iran was sending got smaller, but the success rate got significantly higher. The moment that I saw a Shahed drone successfully strike an Israeli residential building was the moment where I was like, it's over. A Shahed drone with the Tamir interceptors and the Iron Dome that Israel has should never be able to penetrate and should never be able to hit Israel at all. That means even their most robust arsenal of smaller ballistics or smaller missile systems that are normally tasked with intercepting with a super high interception rate, missiles that are being lobbed over the Gaza boundary or missiles that are coming in from Lebanon, those missiles normally make short work of the slower moving drones that are coming in from Iran. They're intercepted in over Iraq airspace. They're intercepted over Jordanian airspace. They can be intercepted with helicopters. And if it passes through all of those, all of those defenses, then Iron Dome makes short work of it. The fact that Iron Dome was letting Shahed drones actually fucking hit Israel proper, actually hit Tel Aviv, implies that even their Tamir interceptors are getting depleted. This means that Israel either has to move America into the forefront of this military campaign so that Iran is too focused on defending itself against a much stronger military, or they have to stand down. Here's Chris Kunzler's video on this. I already saw this. Is a great video. It's a very smart video. I'm glad that Chris also shaved his mustache. I'm the last person to talk about other people's facial hair, but I think the mustache wasn't working that good.
Missiles. Has anyone else noticed that in spite of the fact that Iranian missiles are still hitting Tel Aviv and causing pretty major destruction, I mean, look at this photo from this morning, we are not hearing much information about this, and in many ways this is hardly surprising. The initial reaction to Iran's retaliation to Israel's assault on them was pretty damning for Israel. Most people were showing absolutely no sympathy for Israel and were openly celebrating celebrating Iran's attacks. And so the Israeli government went out to ensure that people were not posting videos of the destruction, failed missile interceptions, or impacts as a whole. But there is also a very important reason that this is not being shown, and this is because...
Please watch this. You really need to watch this. Iran is winning, and it isn't even close. Iran is doing asymmetrical warfare, not imperial warfare. Iran is winning. Physical damage is not only the damage being done. How are you so bad at understanding that Iran is winning? Okay, chatter. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Predictive history said this in April, and they're correct. It's this one Chinese professor that is now going viral that talks about how Iran is winning this. Iran is going to win this war, or is going to inevitably destroy Israel's air defense capabilities. To be fair, you've fallen for the Iran is running out of missiles this past week. No, I didn't say that Iran was running out of missiles. I said that given the limited amount of ballistic missiles that they were sending, Iran's missile, I said there is a suspicion, there's a reasonable statement to make here that Iran's ballistic missile launching capabilities might have actually diminished. Not to the fucking same degree that Israel was claiming, where they were like, oh, we destroyed all of their launchers. We destroyed all the launchers. I never said that their launchers are all destroyed or a third of their launchers are destroyed. I'm saying that looking at the intensity of the strikes, looking at the amount of missiles that they're capable of launching initially versus the amount of missiles that they were capable of launching as of like yesterday, it's clear that their launching capabilities have diminished. That is true. That is not untrue. But why launch as many if they are hitting? What do you mean? What do you mean? If their defense systems have been eroded, if Israel's defense systems have been eroded, isn't it more opportune for them to launch 100 right now and do one major retaliatory strike that basically fucking brings the Iranian retaliation to the fucking severity of Israel's counterstrikes and Israel's preemptive strikes? What are you talking about? There is no reason for Iran not to launch 200 missiles that will successfully fucking hit Israel now and risk massive American intervention. America already did intervention. What are you talking about? Anyway, let's continue.
It's because the first few days showed Israel clearly hides military infrastructure within the vicinity of civilians. They have continually, baselessly claimed that in Gaza it is okay to violate international law over and over again because Hamas are evil and use Palestinians as human shields, and that's why people get killed.
Thank you, Open Presence, for the 100 gifted subs.
But when it comes to Israel, it was increasingly clear, as many people have known, that Israel hides military infrastructure near civilians. This was noted by a senior journalist, Ori Goldberg, just a few days ago. And Israel has a
Yeah, this, by the way, is also... This was the first couple of days of Operation True Promise 3. The first couple of days of Operation True Promise 3 showed us with 100% certainty that Israel's anti-air defense capabilities were directly slammed in residential neighborhoods. Ironically enough, once again, proving the point that everything Israel says about its enemies is pure projection. Okay? pure projection. When they say, oh, Hamas is launching missiles from hospitals, it's motherfucking Israel that is literally using human shields, okay? If that's the assessment, if this is like the human shields meta, Israel showed anyone with 2 eyes that can fucking see the initial strikes that were taking place and the bombings that successfully struck areas of Tel Aviv, that it was actually anti-air defense systems that were being targeted, and the anti-air defense systems were being deployed from inside of Israel, inside of Tel Aviv, in crowded residential fucking neighborhoods. Israel has its base of command, the Mossad headquarters in the heart of Tel Aviv. Israel has military installations in residential neighborhoods. Israel has intelligence installations in the middle of residential neighborhoods where other businesses are doing commerce. This much is true. So yes, of course, Israel was once again projecting.
History of this. In 2008, Jonathan Cook published this article about Hezbollah's attacks on Israel, and what he said is that the military censor prevents publication of a considerable amount of things, but what was clear is that Israel's practices were endangering civilians because they were planting military infrastructure near them, using them as human shields. And these are the reasons that you have stopped seeing images of these attacks, because Israel was losing control of the narrative. It was showing that all the things they had claimed about Palestinians were actually true of themselves.
Not only that, but also, Israel kept showing successful strikes to garner sympathy in the global stage, thinking that this would actually, once again, make Israel look like the victim. And that failed spectacularly. It didn't even move people's attention one bit. Partially because while they were in the process of getting bombed and then continuing to bomb Iran, one, they killed more people and more civilians in Iran than Iran killed in Israel, of course. And on top of that, they never stopped their ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza. They never stopped their ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza. They kept killing people at the humanitarian aid drops. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, if you remember, is yet another violation of international human rights and the Geneva Conventions, engaging in perfidy, using aid and aid delivery mechanisms as a military installation. So, of course, there was no sympathy for Israel. They never even got any sort of sympathy whatsoever. If anything, people were either very quiet about Israel finally being struck after months and months of doing ethnic cleansing in Gaza, or they were openly celebrating it. So they didn't even get their PR goals out of the successful strikes, no matter how hard they tried. Obviously, if you go to CNN, if you go to Fox News, if you go to all these other outlets, they were talking about how devastating this has been for the civilian population of Israel, how destroyed they are, how scared they are, all this stuff. But that fell on deaf ears. I don't think this changed the dynamic for even the Western world at all. And there we are. This is part of the reason why I've said,
We're going to begin with the news.
Regardless of this back and forth with Iran and Israel, Israel's ambitions are over. The moment that the ethnic cleansing ends, either by force or because Israel finalized this ethnic cleansing project, and I hope that's not the case, but that is the assessment of the likes of Chris Hedges and many others, that the Israeli Zionist project is done. This is the last bastion, okay? The last attempt at winning as much territory as possible and forcing America's hand to join the battle to the best of their ability and try to redesign the region under Israeli control. Okay? Because once the world finally sees, so you're an anti-Zionist now? First-time chatters, Israel's small country, Iran is huge. Pretty sure it's different. There's never been a moment where I wasn't an anti-Zionist. What the fuck are you talking about? Now, Oh, you're joking. Okay. Shameful. Israel is small. Iran is big.
Because there was a lot of it over the weekend. The surging tensions in the Middle East after those U.S. military strikes on Iranian sites on Saturday. And then overnight, Iran fired a new barrage of missiles against Israel, and Israeli warplanes launched fresh attacks inside Iran. Meanwhile, the Iranian government is vowing a, quote, decisive response to the American attacks on 3 of its nuclear sites. How'd those attacks do? Satellite images of those facilities show bomb craters and significant damage, but how about underground? The U.S. military is still assessing that question and the full effects. We've got complete coverage and a look at what is next, but we're going to begin with Deborah Pata. She is inside Tel Aviv, Israel for us. Deborah, good morning to you.
Good morning, Tony. Well, several countries across the Middle East have criticized the U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear sites, calling for diplomacy amid fears the war could spiral out of control. Now, this as Israel and Iran continued to trade strikes. This morning, sirens warned of another wave of Iranian missiles, this one exploding in Ashdod. And just hours after the weekend's U.S. strikes, Iran unleashed a barrage of rockets, devastating a huge residential neighborhood in Tel Aviv. All that remained of this building were the hollowed-out shells of apartments where people once lived. There were no fatalities. Israel has also not let up its bombing campaign on Iran. And thousands.
Yeah, the Ashdod attack was on a power station. They don't mention that, do they? No, because it's not beneficial. It's not beneficial for Israel to show how weak they are, especially how weak their infrastructure is. Just like they stopped talking about the Haifa oil refinery that was successfully struck and was shut down for an extended period of time. That only came after Israel blew up the oil depot in Tehran, by the way. Israel blew up the oil depot in Tehran, and then Iran in retaliation blew up the Haifa oil refinery and took it out of commission. Israel hid that fact, and the only reason why we found out about it is because other people had filmed it on their phones while it was happening, and the refinery was on fire. And then also the Haifa oil refinery had to release a statement in their. They had to release a statement to their shareholders, basically, that they were getting decommissioned. Israel is also successfully striking around the ports as well, from what I understand. So, or not Israel, sorry. Iran is striking Israeli ports or around the Israeli ports as well. So they have kept up tremendous pressure. They've kept up tremendous pressure on Israeli society. They've kept up tremendous pressure on the Israeli economy.
Thousands of Iranians rallied in Tehran to protest Israeli and U.S. strikes. The U.S. has no right to tell us what to do, said Ali. We must slap America hard. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, is in Moscow today.
This is IRGC propaganda. Please, please, please don't give them the platform or show this, please. These people are being paid by the IRGC. CBS Mornings? Being paid by the IRGC. CBS Mornings. I guess this is the communist broadcasting service mornings in the pocket of the IRGC.
For talks with President Vladimir Putin.
President Trump, I thank you.
While Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has thanked the U.S. for stepping in and offered prayers for President Trump, saying he had driven out evil from the world. Netanyahu has also flirted with regime change in Iran.
Israel's already engaged in one.
We asked the former ambassador to the UN, Gilad Erdan, if this was a fantasy.
It's not up to us to topple the regime. It's up to the Iranian people.
Senior Israeli officials have
Do you think showing the American audience that Iranians are white would help reduce the bloodlust of some conservatives? Yes. I think unironically, as much as I get annoyed when people show like Tehran and go, look, this is just like a European capital, like that is not the only reason why people should be worthy of dignity and humanity and survive and not be bombed, okay? But yes, that does play a major fucking role in the way like a lot of Americans analyze the situation. I'm not even kidding. Like you'll see, I've seen so many posts like this where people just show Tehran, like normal Tehran. Some women are covered, some women are not. They go, what the fuck? How is this possible? Because that's how stupid the average American is. The average Westerner literally thinks Iranians are like living in huts and fucking riding camels to work, okay? That's also partially why the whole like, this was Iran before the revolution post slaps so hard for the dumbest Americans, where they think like Iran was only like a Western adjacent nation under the Shah, as though Iran didn't exist before then. They don't even factor in what Iran used to look like in the 50s, for example. Iranians are more sophisticated and smarter than Oslo. You get shunned by your whole family if you're not a doctor, engineer, or lawyer. The Iranian public is also more educated. Iranian women have more educational attainment than even American women do. That's like the other side of the story that is like insane, where people that will turn around and be like, Iranian women are not allowed to leave their homes. They're not allowed to get an education. It's so stupid. It's just wrong. It's additionally dumb for an American to say that. Iran is a fucking STEM nation, okay? They are the most stem cell ass nation. You'll be shocked to find out Palestinians broadly are also incredibly educated as well, in spite of living under a ruthless blockade in Gaza and a ruthless and cruel and bloody apartheid for 77 fucking years. This does not mean that this is not the only metric of worthiness for humanity, for the record. People think every single Muslim country is a cross between ISIS throwing gay people off the roof and the Taliban. Don't let women do anything. Yeah. It's so goddamn annoying. It's so fucking frustrating. And it's always, the principle is always the same too. It works even harder because Islamophobia is like this ever-present normalizing force that makes people comfortable with this bigoted attitude. But ironically enough, it's always the same principle with America's adversaries, right? Like the example I always use is when the New York Times wrote an article about Beijing and how they had this like new museum that they had created in Beijing. And they were saying like, this whitewashes China's bloody history. And I was like, that's a museum. That's every museum. Have you been to an American museum? Like, that's literally what museums do. You're describing the function of a museum in a country, but because it's a Chinese museum, you're like, this is unacceptable. This is, this is whitewashing Chinese history. It's like, yeah, no shit. That's what every museum does. That, and also they house a bunch of stolen artifacts for the most part. Okay? And I mean, I still love museums, by the way. I'm not saying museums are bad in general, but like we we don't actually have like the same metrics for our foreign adversaries. And this is yet another example of this. Like, is the Islamic Republic of Iran a repressive force upon the secular population of Iranians? Abso-fucking-lutely. And at times, this has created real instability. At times, this has been a threat to its own power, right? This is correct. This is 100% correct. But the solution to this is not bombing campaigns and forced military intervention and a puppet state that is implemented in the process that will play along with Western ambitions in the region. And in an effort to also justify its control over the society, like the Shah did, create this ruthless force, a torturous force like the Savak, right? That's not the solution. That's not how you liberate Iran. As a matter of fact, bombing campaigns such as this one only create additional instability that forces the public to focus on that, focus on self-defense, and it sets back the stage for any sort of civil struggle that might happen organically in these countries. You understand? It's very, very stupid to think that we can like bomb Iran into being a more woke and gay country. It's idiotic. Just like you can't bomb Georgia into being more woke. Just like you can't bomb America into being more woke. You can't bomb Iran into being more woke either. That's not how this goes.
Told us the ball is now in Iran's court. It can choose to end the conflict by negotiating a deal, but if it retaliates against the U.S., that could spark a wider war. Gail?
Doesn't the fighter just
Deborah,
report
thank
leaving
you.
Israeli airspace?
Now let's go to Weisha Zhang. She's at the White House.
That's so... Trump is like, come on, it's time for peace. I'm going to tell Israel it's time for peace as well. Meanwhile, Israeli fighter jets. Congratulations, world. It's time for peace. Israel's like, nah, actually, it's fine. We're not. Not time for us. Yeah, I guess Israel didn't get this memo. A White House official told me that the Trump's goal now is to end the war, and he's going to make it clear to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, we want a deal and we don't want a new war. Interesting. Seems strange to me that that's not happening. How odd. Anyway, as I've talked about, there is no appetite from the American public broadly for war with Iran, right? Not that it matters, because there is no democratic process. There is no democratic process when it comes to foreign policy. Foreign policy is uniparty. All that matters is our goals, our ambition, our interests, and the public's appetite for more war or less war is, I mean, it's good if the public is excited about more war like they were after 9/11. Having said that, it's very clear that disinterest in war and anger and resentment towards more war is not going to stop this administration from doing whatever the fuck it wants to do. Okay? Here's the winner of Nobel Peace Prize in Iran says Israel's attack on Evin prison in Tehran has created a horrific situation for the inmates. The jail's hospital/clinic has been destroyed. Injured prisoners are not being attended to, and the regime is blocking families from getting news. Most political prisoners are held in Evin. So what happened was yesterday, Israel struck or last night, Israel struck the Evin prison, where a lot of the political prisoners of the Islamic Republic are being held. They did that because they thought they could force like a prison break, basically. But of course, you can't do that by bombing. You can't do that by bombing the fucking prison. So the Evin prison health facility has been destroyed. Prisoners remain in wards with heightened security conditions, are being moved. Injured prisoners have no place to be transferred and treated. And due to war conditions, they are not being transferred to hospitals outside the prison. A number of prisoners have not yet spoken to their families. And there are rumors that prisoners are being transferred to prisons around Tehran. And families are in fear and worry. When prisoners are transferred in these conditions, we will not have accurate information about them. We do not know how many conscripts were killed, nor do we know how many of the families of prisoners who went to Evin's prosecutor's office to follow up on the status of their loved ones were killed. The government is not providing information, and we don't have accurate information either. I call on international organizations to work with the release of all prisoners in these war-torn conditions. So, ironically enough, given that Israel's goal here is to cause further instability in Iran by forcing a prison break, their only method to do so is by bombing from afar. And of course, bombing from afar instead of causing a prison break is only harming the political prisoners. Do you want the political prisoners to stay in prison? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But it's once again a fucking own goal by Israel. Do you not understand the point? This is no different than Israel being like, don't you want the gays to be liberated in Iran? Free them. By what? Killing them with bombs? Because that's what happens. Don't you want the gays in Gaza to be liberated? By what? Being bombed and starved by the Israeli bombing campaign? That's not gonna liberate them. Israel's goals here is not the liberation of anti-regime dissidents and prisoners that are unjustly fucking being trapped in Evin. It is to cause chaos and instability. Do you not understand? Yeah, notable that while Trump is telling the media that he wants the end of the war, Israel's carrying out one of the most brutal attacks on Iran thus far. They're currently on their 6th or 7th wave of airstrikes of the day. Like, do you think America should have bombed Auschwitz to liberate Auschwitz? Do you think that would have worked better? What are we talking about? Hell yeah, brother. I got a hammer and everything's looking quite like a nail. I got a hammer in my hand and everything looks like a nail to me. I'm American. Auschwitz was a bad example because they invaded it essentially. Yeah, they did. They didn't fucking bomb it. What are you talking about? Exactly. That is the USSR's liberation of Auschwitz came because they fucking successfully operated a military campaign on the ground, a ground invasion. Not to say that Israel would ever do a ground invasion in Iran. Obviously, they would never be able to do that. They would get fucking destroyed. Khamenei tweet from literally just now. Those who know the Iranian people and their history know that the Iranian nation isn't a nation that surrenders. Khamenei with another tweet, this time in English. Trump just took a victory lap. I know, we already covered it. Yeah. We covered it already. Trump basically took the off-ramp. Israel seemingly has not gotten the message, though. And the American media is, of course, let's listen to what the fucking Fox 5 has to say. Oh, they took Buttfeld out of the rotation for this one because they're like, this is a serious conversation. We can't have you fucking it up.
It was an amazing response. We all know that's not true. People inside don't. But what do you think?
Well, good to be back with everybody. What a weekend. I believe Joey is largely right, if not totally right.
Wait, what is this? Senior advisor to the IRGC Commander-in-Chief General Jabari. While we confront the Americans, we will simultaneously continue our own plans, operations to suppress, crush, and obliterate the vile, child-killing criminal Israel. We will not stop hitting Israel. We will respond independently to the U.S., and that response is due to their attacks on our nuclear facilities and their malicious behavior. But the ongoing plowing of Israel will continue. They are now in a very difficult situation. Oh my God, they're literally doing the Yemen method. I just realized they're doing Ansar Allah. They're Ansar Allah posting. This is what Yemen was trying to do, obviously to limited success because they don't have the same fucking striking capabilities as Iran does, clearly. But this is the Yemen method. They're like, listen, America, you fuck with us. Yes, you keep killing our children. You have significantly more military power to do so without incurring any penalties back home. Israel cannot do that, however. Israel cannot do that at all, which is why we will continue striking Israel as long as you don't strike us, America. We won't strike your naval vessels. They are now in a very difficult situation. Yesterday, as you're aware, our heavy strikes were carried out in two phases. First, with our drones, which I am familiar with and can say maybe even more precise and powerful than our missiles. 40 of our drones were launched and hit the intended targets. And today, Israel's in a situation where even after we launched around 20 missiles, they were unable to do anything in response. Our 40 drones and 20 missiles struck exactly where we intended and caused severe consequences. I say to you and the viewers, but let me emphasize, America's main assets in the region are not as ships or bases. Those are highly vulnerable. Israel's, he misspoke, he meant U.S. U.S.'s most important military asset is Israel itself, which today is incapable and overwhelmed in the face of our attacks. Israel has realized it is losing, and it must lose. It must be destroyed. It must be crushed. The people of the region must be freed from this wicked criminal. This is part of a broader strategic package we have with America. As you mentioned earlier, that's precisely why the Americans have come, to try to save Israel. But they will not succeed and will suffer damage themselves. The outcome of this story remains to be seen. I mean, Iranian generals talk a fucking big game, okay? Ayatollah Khamenei also talks a big game. What matters is not what they say on television. What matters is what they do. But listen to my words, at least, or my assessment of this. What is happening? The camera's being extra wonky today. I don't like it. Okay, this might be a little bit better. So, Israel's more offensive campaigns with its Air Force right now is happening because they have more offensive capabilities than they do defensive capabilities. Israel is operating with the best defense is an immense offense attitude, because the more they run out of ammo on their anti-air defense capabilities, and those are much harder to re-up and rearm because of how costly that is, because these are sophisticated missile systems and they're expensive, and especially the big boys, the ballistic missile defenses are much more costly than the Tamir interceptors, even though the single Tamir interceptor, the price of a single Tamir interceptor is $200,000. Okay, and those can't stop the ballistic missiles. You can deploy 20 of them if you want. None of them actually intercept a single fucking ballistic missile, especially not a hypersonic one. So basically, because they don't have the capacity to play defense, they have to continue playing super hard offense. And the more Israel strikes Iran, the more Iran continues to strike Israel with increased intensity. Israel knows they cannot survive a war of attrition without the Americans playing a role, a significant role. And I don't mean just like a defensive role, because America has already been playing a defensive role in this, and it's obvious that, you know, ballistic missiles are still piercing through the Iron Dome, the Arrow systems, David Sling, and even the THAAD launchers that America sent. Okay? If they can't defend, why won't Iran hit their air bases? You think Iran is not hitting their air bases? Iran is hitting their bases. You don't see it because, like, their air bases are far away from the public eye, and therefore their air bases are far away from the public eye, and also their military installations. So the Israeli government does not allow any sort of filming of impact sites on air bases. An F-35 down by... No, this is fake too, man. Stop. What? No. I don't think this is real either. And the reason why I don't think this is real is because Tal is correct. It's been 9 days, no new footage of this alleged F-35. Dude, this is correct. This assessment is correct. If this video, I don't know where it's from. I don't know where this video is from, and I don't think it's an F-35. The reason why I don't think it's an F-35, and I don't even know if it's from Iran, is because if Iran struck a fucking F-35 successfully and downed it, they would release photos. Okay? They would release photos of it. They would put it on every fucking poster. This would showcase that America's latest gen fighter that is multi-role is a dud, is a complete fucking dud. And I know this because they have successfully struck drones. They've successfully struck and shot down Israeli drones. Why do I know that they've successfully shot down Israeli drones? Because the moment that those Israeli drones are struck and successfully intercepted, the Iranian outlets will make a big show of it, understandably. And also, Israel will release a statement. The Israeli military command will release a statement saying, oh, our drone was struck. It's fine. It's negligible. They have no information that they can derive out of this drone. It's not a big deal. Bro, Serbia shot down one B-2 bomber in the 1990s and they made a whole ass song about it? Yeah. Israeli jets are mostly using standoff air-launched missiles to avoid air defenses. It wasn't a B-2, it was a F-117. Yes. That's the one that that's the one that Chris Hedges was talking about, right? F-117 Nighthawk. It wasn't a B-2 bomber. No B-2 has ever been shot down. It was an F-1. Oh my God, I have so many plane autists and so many missile autists in the chat. Respect. Respect to all the chatters that instantly fucking F-117, my beloved. The F-35 wreckage is also a tremendously important, a potential F-35 wreckage is a tremendously important wreckage, dude. The amount of intelligence that you can give to Russia and China off of that is so insane. It's worth numerous Dongfeng missiles, okay? I don't know how many Dongfeng missiles you can get in response to the wreckage of a F-35. Are you kidding me? unlimited Dongfeng missiles to Iran for a crumb of intelligence to offer the Chinese government or the Russian government. Russia would send every S-400 they have to Iran. Lifetime supply of Dongfeng missiles, all of the Dongfeng missiles for you, sir. It's such a massive deal when we dropped one off the Vincent in the South China Sea in 2023. Yeah. The only thing that I've seen so far is just like AI shit about the F-35s. Far's new Minister of Comms is saying that after they shot down a drone, they discovered it was using the American Iridium satellite network. Iridium was initially funded by Saudi bin Laden Group. Yeah, I saw that too. And also saved from bankruptcy by the DoD in 2000. Yeah, I saw that as well. There's also some Washington Post releases, which I suspect is a release from Mossad. So I assume this is like more propaganda. Like Israel allowed this to be released. The Washington Post has published an audio file in which Mossad agents contact 20 IRGC commanders and give them 12 hours to flee Iran, or they and their families will be killed. Which, of course, is also a fucking war crime, by the way. Like openly admitting that you're going to kill people's children and their families, like you're going to kill civilians, is insane. This is a recording of a call that took place between an Israeli intelligence operative and a senior Iranian general on June 13th. The voice of the Israeli intelligence operative had been digitally altered in audio recording obtained by the Post. The Post prepared its own translation of the conversation and removed the removed the voice of the Iranian general to avoid identifying him.
Hello, Sardar.
Hello, Commander. He says hello. Salam alaikum. He says hello.
Sardar. Salam alaikum.
Can you hear me? And you are. I'm calling from a country which 2 hours ago sent Salami, Bagheri, and Shamkhani to hell. And now for you, and I'm suggesting for you, Mr. Redacted, Indistinct Voices. Did Redacted come on the line? Bring him on the line. Can you hear me now? And you are. Listen carefully. I'm calling from a country that I'll explain to you. Listen carefully. I'm calling from a country that 2 hours ago sent Bagheri, Salami, and Shamkhani one by one to hell. By the way, Shamkhani didn't die. Shamkhani was the part of the nuclear denuclearization negotiations team, and they thought that they had killed him in the strikes, but he actually didn't die. He is alive. He tweeted that he was alive, but injured. I think a couple days ago. The only advice I'm giving you right now, I can advise you right now, you have 12 hours to escape with your wife and child. Otherwise, you're on our list now. You, Bleep, all of you, one by one, are on the list that I'm looking at, and you're our next targets. We will hit you, your family, your children, everyone, with the dirt. I only called to tell you, look, as long as there's time. I'll give you a reprieve. Like I said, 12 hours from this very minute that I spoke to you, you have time to escape. If not, you have no one to blame but yourself. We're closer to you than your own neck vein. Put this in your head. May God protect you. Well, you didn't say. I told you, brother. Hello? I explained to you clearly just now. You said what? I told you, didn't I? I gave you a reprieve. Which places did you take? What place did you take? Where did I take? All those savages, all those people like Salami. We sent them to that same place they should have gone to much earlier. What is this back and forth, bro? Is he trying to kill him with this annoying conversation? Is that what's going on? All jokes aside, This is yet another fucking hashtag ad for the Mossad capabilities, okay? The reason why they're showing this is to say, like, look at how cool and badass we are, that we have the capabilities of, like, reaching Iranian generals directly and warning them ahead of time, and that they are fearful and that they're scared. They're terrified of our espionage capabilities, our military might. By the way, we are closer to you than your jugular is a line. God says in the Quran, it is psychological warfare he's trying to do. Yeah, I suspect that the reason why this conversation is taking place, the reason why this conversation was released is because Mossad wanted it to be released, for sure. Okay, there's no fucking way that they would leak this audio to the Washington Post. But the other reason why the conversation even took place is most likely to, again, engage in some kind of destabilization initiative, cause instability, and assume that, like, the IRGC generals would panic and flee, or it's probably to engage in more information gathering so that they can monitor with the embedded Mossad assets that they have in Iran at the time, that they could monitor where they go so they can more successfully strike whichever area that they go to. How is this good optics? Your pause on a threat to his wife and child, literally proving what they deny daily. Brother, what do you mean good optics? They don't give a shit. What are you talking about? They have literally been conducting an ethnic cleansing campaign on a starving population, primarily killing women and children for the past 20 months. It is clear that the Western countries and their leadership does not give a fuck. They don't give a fuck that I'll prove it to you. Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, a couple months ago at this point, openly said, we are killing everyone in Gaza, and the Western world doesn't say a peep about it. Of course we have to let them have a crumb of food, because he was defending why there was any food being let into Gaza at all. He said, we're killing everyone there. We're doing the ethnic cleansing campaign. We're doing the final solution, and the Western world is not stopping us. But this is the one thing that they actually get up in their feelings about. So we have to let, like, a little bit of food in while we implement our final solution. He said that openly. He said that openly. Did anything happen? No, nothing happened. You might not have even heard about it until this very moment. I covered it extensively at the time, obviously, but, you know, it is obvious that it doesn't fucking matter what Israel does in terms of, like, numerous violations, in terms of all of these war crimes that they engage in on a daily basis. Do you want to be one of them? Do you want to be the next one on the list? Do you also want to destroy your wife and child? No, right? I'm telling you right now, I gave you a proposal. Say it. You have 12 hours to make a video saying we have walked away from this government and we're unwilling to sacrifice our lives. For people who destroyed our country for 46 years, they only killed, stole, took, they cut the children off this country into pieces. Well, how should I send it to you? How should I send it to you, says the Iranian general. I will send you a Telegram ID. Send it. Say it. Say it. I'll send it to you. I'll SMS it now. Where will you SMS it? I have your number. Look, we have everything on you. It seems you haven't understood. It's clear you don't even understand where you are right now. I'm telling you, we hit all your leaders. They went into the air. We turned them into powder. Now you are sitting here and you think you're talking to me. You thought what you're sitting there. I'm calling to give you a proposal to save your wife and child. You wretch. Are you confused? Well, I'm saying, how should I send it to you? I'm saying I'll send it to you. Hello? And I'm with you. I hear you. This is what happens when millennials are in intelligence. They don't know how to speak on the phone. Yeah. Okay, I'm starting to see why diplomatic negotiations have broken down. Yeah. the average Israeli is incapable of conducting a normal conversation without instantly trying to bully ball his way. Anyway, I don't know if this is real, but the purpose of this serves is that is propaganda to showcase Mossad's capabilities and to say, oh, even the IRGC generals are very scared. See, they're playing ball with our threats. There's a really, really devastating Harvard analysis that came out that I'm going to also cover as well, obviously, that showcases that there are 377 Palestinians unaccounted for on top of like the actual, or almost 400,000, but 377 unaccounted for in the death counts and in the estimations. And I will talk about that in a little bit. But before I do, in this back and forth, I want to know what the Democrats are doing. Here's Greg Sargent from the New Republic. Amazing. New York Times has more confirmation that Trump's decision to bomb Iran was motivated in large part by the way the Israeli strikes were playing out on Fox News, which drove him to want some credit for it. He marveled to advise about what he says was brilliant Israeli military operation, which involved a series of precision strikes that killed key figures in Iran's military leadership and blasted away strategic weapon sites. Mr. Trump took calls on his cell phone from reporters and began hailing the operations as excellent and was very successful, hinting that he had much more to do with it than people realized. Later that day, Mr. Trump asked an ally how the Israeli strikes were playing. He said that everyone was telling him he needed to get more involved, including potentially dropping 30,000-pound GBU-57 bombs on Fordo, the Iranian uranium enrichment facility that buried underneath the mountain south of Tehran. Political advisors to Mr. Trump had been swapping notes on various public and private polls examining the popularity of military action against Iran, noting that American support for an operation depended in part on how pollsters asked the question. While polls showed that an overwhelming majority of Americans did not want the United States to go to war with Iran, most Americans also did not want Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. The president was closely monitoring Fox News, which was airing wall-to-wall praise of Israel's military operation and featuring guests urging Mr. Trump to get more involved. Several Trump advisors lamented the fact that Mr. Carlson was no longer on Fox, which meant that Trump was not hearing much of the other side of the debate. You're telling me we got into a war, another war because Trump had FOMO? It's a combination of numerous different factors, okay? This is not the end-all be-all. This is what drove it over the finish line. The fucking rabid Zionist freak General Kurilla that is in his ear, who is such a bloodthirsty monster hell-bent on solidifying his legacy. Okay? You have numerous Israeli operatives and Israeli envoys that are directly in the room with Donald Trump or can make one fucking phone call to Donald Trump, all telling him that America has to join in. And I also suspect that the initial conversation that took place before the negotiations were slated to come to an end was absolutely conducted ahead of time. Like, he knew that Israel was going to strike. I believe that. He knew that Israel would use the protected cover of a negotiation process to implement a first strike, because it wasn't Israel's first strike happening under the banner of diplomacy between America and Iran had to have been coordinated ahead of time. That part I do believe. Because Israel has sophisticated espionage capabilities that they can use. Israel has sophisticated espionage capabilities that they can fucking use whenever the opponents are not expecting it, right? And the best possible time to use the sophisticated espionage capabilities, like the Mossad operations that took place inside of Iran, where they basically were able to take a 3-story building and turn it into a fucking drone manufacturing site. And those drones were quickly and swiftly sent to all of the air defenses, right? All of the fucking air defenses that Iran had in an effort to make sure that their first decapitation strike was successful, which it was. That could only be conducted under the protective banner of negotiations, diplomacy. At the risk of being lasered into the moon, what's the ETA on the Zoran segment? I'm abstaining from Iran news for mental health reasons. Eventually, I'll talk about it. Do you think Iran has also sleeper cells within Israel? Yes, I do. They have used them before. They used them on, I think it was Operation True Promise 2. I don't know how many more they have currently, but they certainly, it's not, Israel has, Mossad has been able to penetrate Iranian society far more successfully than Iran has been able to with Israel. Having said that, however, I'm sure that there are still sleeper cells within Israel, within Israeli society, but they clearly have not activated them like they did last time for Operation True Promise 2. Because if you remember, when Operation True Promise 2 was happening, there was a bus stop attack that took place simultaneously. That was an Iranian operation, for sure. I'm shocked that Iran has those. Seems like hell to get sleeper cells in there. No, it doesn't. That's not how it works. You find sympathetic figures. Like Mossad's operations doesn't mean like literal Israeli nationals, Israeli Jews living in fucking Iran. they're not. They're not like going to Iran and they're like, hey, I'm actually Iranian. But secretly they're Israeli nationals. No, they fucking activate. They take advantage of instability inside of the country, just like Iran would take advantage of instability inside of Israel, and sympathetic figures that they could find that are sympathetic to taking down Israel. And there's plenty of fucking people in Israeli society that would be invested in that. Palestinian citizens of Israel, or or other like-minded figures they can find, in the same way that Israel can use the existing groups that are already very much unsympathetic to the Islamic Republic. Eric Kurilla, top U.S. military commander in the Middle East, began planning joint U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran during the Biden admin, per a former U.S. official. While Biden didn't okay the strikes, his team knew of and permitted the prep that enabled Trump and Netanyahu. Yeah. H3 Atanomi, Heather Nomi, thank you for the 10 gifted. We get meta ads in Lebanon paid for from Israel, urging us to cooperate with them. That's crazy. Heathenami. What? Damn, it's who has the power to steer the U.S. away other than the people uprising full chaotic cycle? Can you go around the U.S. and conduct proper diplomacy and fix all this? Fuck no. The EU is the most servile. The EU is literally more servile than like the Gulf states are to American interests. Iranian scholar Helia Doutagi spoke to Drop Site's Jeremy Scale about Israel's three-phase campaign against Iran. She describes it as phase 1, sudden military onslaught to paralyze Iran's command structure and terrorize civilians. Phase 2, a failed effort to provoke regime collapse through unrest and infiltration. Phase 3, U.S. direct entry into the war, reflecting a declining empire's desperation. In this clip, she walks through the first phase, a surprise assault designed to inflict widespread terror on civilians by exploiting the element of surprise. She says the strikes hit over 100 sites in the first 12 hours, including significant senior military officials, civilian scientists, several university professors, including the president of Azad University in Tehran, and women and children. Many were killed in their homes, asleep in the middle of the night. She calls it a psychological as well as a tactical campaign aimed at inducing fragmentation or loss of control. And yet, within hours, Iran began to reconstitute its defenses. A miscalculation, she argues, shattered Israel's assumptions. Let's take a look.
Talk to you, but give us your analysis of what we're seeing unfold with this U.S.-Israeli war against Iran, the timing of it, and what you see as the agenda at play.
I mean, you start with a pretty accurate and comprehensive analysis of what has happened, and I just want to, I guess, add to that. And let me start by this point that it is very important to recognize that we are at a historic inflection point in history, one that is very much rooted in October 7th, anti-colonial operation of Al-Aqsa, which has essentially set the motion against Iran. And unlike its prior aggressions, in Yemen, in Syria, in Lebanon, and of course the ongoing genocide in Palestine, this aggression is encountering a radically different material conditions, hence the different forces that we're seeing at play. And I'm going to go through the three phases that I think have unfolded or are unfolding, and maybe we can discuss that together. And the very first phase, obviously, was what you explained. The operation was very much designed to target the command structure and inflict widespread terror on civilians by exploiting the element of surprise. And this phase was successful for the most part, in my opinion, because while Iran was at the negotiating table, as you mentioned, there was a coordinated wave of strikes targeting Iranian civilians, residentials, and military sites, as well as nuclear facilities in Natanz in the first round of its strikes that are under and were under IAEA safeguard, right? So the victims of the first day's attack, including significant senior military officials, civilian scientists. We had several university professors, including the president of Azad University in Tehran, one of the prominent universities in Iran, and women and children. And they were overwhelmingly located in residential neighborhoods. Many were killed in their homes. The attack took place in the middle of the night, and many were killed with their families sleeping in the middle of the night. And while several high-profile assassinations, as I said, were assassinated, 5 out of 12 that they aimed to assassinate were killed in the first night. And the intent was really clear. It was to paralyze Iran's command structure and instill a mass fear through the targeting of civilians. And in the first few hours, Iran's air defense was also compromised significantly.
That for sure was the most sophisticated aspect of the Mossad operations. Like that, I would say that in and of itself is like, that wasn't even like the fucking the act of terrorism that the also sophisticated, but an act of terrorism that was the bombing campaigns from the beepers. The fact that they were able to deeply penetrate the IRGC and deeply penetrate Iranian society so they could actually have a drone building facility in the fucking heart of Tehran is insane. And once they were able to dismantle some of the air forces, then they fucking turned around and bombed all these people. Then they came in with the violence.
And which limited the capacity of the state to defend their airspace. And as a result of that, over 100 strategic sites and civilian objects were hit within the first 6 to 12 hours, I believe, and significant damage was done. So the objective of the attack was not only tactical militarily, but it was also psychological, right? So it was very much to induce this fragmentation of loss of control. And what was significant, and I think arguably unprecedented, was the fact that Iran was able to observe the attack and so incredibly quickly retain its structure and come back to an offense mode. And this was partly a miscalculation of Israel. It was the depth of Iran's revolutionary structure. And within hours, within 6 hours, I believe, 7 hours, the command was restructured, air defense was restored, and offensive capacity was activated. And it was less than 24 hours, if not, it was like 12 hours, that the first round of attacks of Iran in self-defense was launched, right? And the first round were firm, they were calibrated, and they were targeted at important military objectives. And they also passed through, it's very significant to note that the fact that the hits were and are continuously successful in occupied territories is due to the fact that it goes through, the missiles go through multi-layered interceptions with the most advanced military equipment of the collective base, right? The first layers probably starts in one of the Arab reactionary regimes, Jordan probably, in terms of intelligence, and it goes through until it hits the target. So there are multi-layered levels of interceptions that these missiles pass. And, Iran developed this. Doing so, it completely disturbed the Israeli strategic assumptions and revealed that the readiness of the state that has spent decades, especially preparing for this moment, especially after the Western-backed Iraqi invasion of Iran between 18...
With just like with Yemen, a strike in the heart of Sana'a is going to be costly, of course, in terms of the civilian casualties, but the society's attitude towards that sort of thing is, I think, very different than a direct strike in the heart of Tel Aviv. The response is the response that Israeli society will have towards a direct strike on Tel Aviv, especially if it's continued. The appetite that they have for instability, the appetite that they have for the amount of damage they can withstand and not be able to like live their normal day-to-day existences is very, very different than what the Iranian society or what people in Yemen can withstand. Not to say that like Iran and Yemen are the same, they're not, because Iran is also going to be less tolerant of endless bombing campaigns than even the people in Yemen are, because all the people in Yemen have known is death and destruction from Western forces and Western-backed militias, whereas Iranian society broadly has also experienced stability and normalcy. But given the position of Iran on the global stage, like there is more of an understanding that this is a strike that's happening that didn't have to happen. If Iran, for example, was engaging in a dangerous gambit by constantly fucking shit up instead of routinely showcasing restraint in the tit for tat between Israel and Iran, because remember, the way that Iran conducted itself, I have criticized to a certain degree, because like Iran has allowed all of its foreign policy apparatus to be eroded, the entire resistance to be eroded to a detriment to Iranian safety and security. But I think all of that was showing, like what that was showing to the public was that Iran was not willing to bargain with its citizens' lives, recognizing the unstable position that the Islamic Republic has in the eyes of its public. They basically didn't poke the beast, if you will. They didn't poke the beast at all, and then the beast still came for them, which is precisely why I think Israel was not able to take advantage of the initial destabilization that they thought they would get. They didn't poke the bear, and the bear still came for Iran, and then all of a sudden people recognized, like, you know, this is outside of the Islamic Republic's control. This is not something that they brought to. This is not something that they brought to us. That's what I think. That's why I think it's like, in spite of the negative feelings that a lot of Iranian society, especially secular forces within Iranian society, felt towards the government, there isn't like a tremendous amount of instability. Anyway, let's see what Jeffries is saying.
Donald Trump and his actions, which do not appear to be consistent with the United States Constitution, takes unilateral offensive military action without seeking the approval of the United States Congress. The use of military force, which is offensive in nature, must be approved by the House and the Senate. That's according to the Constitution. It's not optional, Donald. It's not. The framers of the Constitution actually gave Congress the power to declare war for a reason.
I'm losing my fucking mind, because if you don't talk about the real issue here, this is just seasoning. This is a problem, not the problem. The problem is fucking allowing Israel to run its dick all over every orifice of American foreign policy. The problem is going to war with Iran at the behest of Israel. A problem in the process is doing it unconstitutionally. It's so strange that these guys think that there is an unlimited amount of resentment that they could tap into right now. An impossible to defend decision made by the Trump administration. And these fucking dipshits are basically taking the dumbest, most like rule-abiding aspect of this process. They're mad about the process in which these strikes were conducted, while simultaneously giving credit to why those strikes should have been conducted to begin with by saying Iran must never have a nuclear weapon. If you say that, then you don't understand why people fucking voted for Trump to begin with. Nobody gives a fuck about the process. Open Presence, thank you for the 100 get the subs. People care about going to war with Iran and potential retaliation from Iran. They don't care that it was done unilaterally. I mean, I'm sure people care about that it was done unilaterally as well, but like that's not the main concern here. Trump does everything unilaterally. He doesn't give a shit. Even things that he could get across through congressional approval, he still does on his own to prove a fucking point. I'm not saying you shouldn't bring up the unconstitutionality of this, okay? That is definitely an important point to bring up. But you shouldn't only focus on that, while simultaneously offering credit to why these campaigns must happen by taking Trump's framing and running with it. The framing that even our intelligence communities did not agree with in their initial assessments. But of course, Hakeem Jeffries is saying this because he is also bought and paid for by AIPAC. Democrats have a unique opportunity to present themselves as anti-war for once. They have a unique opportunity to also take away some of the people in Trump's base that are maybe in the margins that thought that they were voting for an anti-war candidate that clearly is not invested in anti-war at all. But instead of taking advantage of this opportunity, even with a cold, calculated, cynical approach, they can't let go of their other ambition, which is to, one, defend Israel's interests at all costs, and two, at the behest of defending Israel's interests at all costs, bomb Iran.
So the American people, through their elected representatives, would have the opportunity to debate the issue and make some decisions as it relates to what's in the best interest and the national security of the American people. Donald Trump and the administration chose to ignore the Constitution. And so they're going to have to come before Congress and explain their justification for an offensive military strike against Iran.
It is mind-boggling how bad this response is. Because it's such a gimme. This is as big as a gimme as being like, I want a ceasefire in Gaza. Just saying those fucking words. And I'm willing to stop Israel from getting weapons to get this ceasefire in Gaza. And the Democrats couldn't be bothered to make that fucking simple statement. And they lost the election. Babaannem kine benziyor. Evet. Yok, hayır, tercih etmiyorum. I cannot understand
the U.S.
how insane they are. And I also especially do not understand why so many Democrats, like visible Democrats on Twitter, Democratic Party supporters rather, are going along with this like false narrative. They're fantasizing about like Kamala Harris being a great peacekeeper somehow. It is obvious to me that the Democrats do not want to be anti-war at a time when there is tremendous resentment against war, even by fucking Trump's own base.
A good article about this because they're talking about making a comparison to Reagan's invasion of Grenada well before you were born. Reagan's invasion of Grenada, and it was not sanctioned. It was quick, very few casualties, if any, and didn't cost much. This will cost a tremendous amount of money. And are we thinking that Congress is actually going to engage in an appropriation to make this happen?
I think you bring up such an important point that I just want to add to real quickly, which is Democrats right now can literally put aside what they feel about Iran and whether Iran, and no one is here justifying or defending Iran's actions. But they can at least stand up for the rule of law in this country and say the president cannot start a war without the approval of Congress, and laser focus the conversation on saying do not start a war without the approval of Congress. And yet they seem to have completely abandoned that principle and say, well, he should.
All of Congress has abandoned that principle for decades.
Right, but we're talking about the politics of what the Democratic leadership should be doing instead of Americans looking at Tucker Carlson skewering Ted Cruz or Steve Bannon and saying, wow, I can't believe these are the people who are saying, hey, let's have a minute, let's have this conversation. That should be coming out of the senior leadership of the Democratic Party, front and center, say,
hey, I can't say this about Steve Bannon, but Tucker Carlson isn't just talking about congressional approval for war. if you think that the reason why he's gaining tremendous popularity off of this is simply because he just wants the normal process to take place, you've missed it. You've missed the actual point that he's making, which is, why are we going to war with Iran at all? What are you saying? Why are we getting dog walked by our special client state? That's the reason why people love the Tucker Carlson interview, because these are the kinds of conversations that never take place even in the media, and certainly don't take place, at least in public, with political figures. This is why Hakeem Jeffries calls Iran a sworn enemy. And he says Israel has a right to defend itself from Iranian aggression. Even though Israel attacked them first, he's a bought and paid for hack. It's true. What's wrong with Iran's actions? They're defending themselves against a genocidal state? No, 100%. I think it's cowardly for American politicians to not be like, dude, what are we talking about? Israel is a fucking foreign state that struck another foreign state, a massive foreign nation state. What do you mean? Like, they just have to eat it? Like, what are you talking about? That's not how that works. Israel did a genocide after its own captive population that it is a belligerent occupier of had a prison rebellion. After 75 years at the time of ruthless oppression, why would you expect any country to not respond or retaliate when met with so much military force? What good are fucking nation states if it's not to protect its own citizens, protect its own way of existence? That's the whole purpose.
We can talk about Iran, but this president cannot drop a 30,000-pound bomb on a country, lead us into a war, drag the entire region into it without the approval of the American Congress.
And it's message discipline. No kings, right? Yeah. No kings. Can't do this without us. You need Congress.
I like no oligarchs more than I like no kings. I think the Democratic Party keeps getting served issues we can win on a silver platter and just kind of turning them away. If we were staunchly anti-war, boom, skyrocketing popularity. If we really, really took it to the oligarchy, skyrocketing popularity.
But the problem is they're not anti-war and they're not anti-oligarchy, and that's the problem that we have with the Democratic Party.
And then they're like, why won't your generation vote for us? Well,
Bernie had thousands of people in deep red South Texas at a rally last night, though.
All right, guys, we're going to have to...
Okay, Cam. Okay, Cam. Friend of the show, Cameron Kasky, who also has a show now with Tim Miller, who I don't really like too much, but it is what it is. At the Bulwark. Cameron on this panel is like the inverse of this meme. Okay, so there's a 56-year-old woman here. Oh, yeah, it's the opposite. Yeah.
Attack on 3 Iranian nuclear sites. This morning, we're getting a look at some of the damage done over the weekend. Aerial images you see there showing impact on the surface. U.S. forces around the region and authorities at home are on alert for potential retaliation from Iran, warning its military will decide the timing, nature, and scale of its response. The U.S. has about 40,000 forces in the region, spread out among about 20 sites. We have complete team coverage, beginning with new details about the 36-hour mission of the U.S. B-2 stealth bombers that attacked Iran on Saturday. Chief Global Affairs anchor Martha Raddatz starts us off. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, Robin. President Trump called the mission a tremendous success, a mission carried out with maximum stealth. This morning, We're getting our first look at that extraordinary attack on 3
adversarial media, by the way, supposedly adversarial media to Donald Trump, for the record. When it comes down to doing defense for the military, doing hashtag ads for the military and our military might, is so crazy how much they fucking glaze Trump and glaze the fucking military's war crimes. Like, what they were talking about with this strike was a direct violation of numerous rules, okay? You cannot strike nuclear facilities. You can, like, America is not allowed to strike nuclear facilities at all, let alone do it to a fucking foreign nation that is not in war with. Out of nowhere, at the behest of another foreign nation that is doing an ethnic cleansing campaign that we're giving all of our fucking weapons to.
Iranian nuclear sites over the weekend. This fireball in the night sky. Explosions heard in the distance at Iran's Isfahan nuclear facility. Part of the barrage known as Operation Midnight Hammer that included the largest strike by B-2 stealth bombers in history.
This is a plan that took months and weeks of positioning and preparation so that we could be ready when the President of the United States called.
The operation carried out in complete secrecy, beginning at 12:01 a.m. Saturday morning. About a dozen B-2 bombers taking flight from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. Around half of them heading west towards Guam, those with trackable movements. This was a decoy. Another 7, those with transponders turned off and minimal radio communications, launching a short time later, heading towards Iran. The 18-hour flight to Iran, including mid-air refueling and in-air support.
The B-2s linked up with escort and support aircraft in a complex, tightly timed maneuver requiring exact synchronization across multiple platforms in a narrow piece of airspace, all done with minimal communications.
Approximately 5 p.m. Eastern Time Saturday, a U.S. submarine launching 24 Tomahawk land cruise missiles at key service infrastructure targets for nuclear facility Isfahan. By 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time, the 25-minute mission inside Iran's airspace activating. U.S. fighter jets sweeping in to protect the B-2s from possible enemy missiles and warplanes. The B-2s dropping 30,000-pound massive ordnance penetrator weapons.
I think it's fucking insane that this anchor is salivating while talking about a direct war crime. Like, this is, I can't stress this enough. This is just a straightforward crime of war. Okay? It is wild that Americans are like, hell yeah, brother. You are not allowed to do no one is supposed to be doing this. For obvious reasons. There are severe consequences for this. For the civilian population, if you were to strike a nuclear facility, there's potential radiation contamination. There's radiation poisoning that could take place immediately for the civilian population near the fucking nuclear facilities. Nuclear facilities are also powering the energy grid. These ones weren't. But then, it is quite loud. It is illegal. This is not... Trump says Israel and Iran agreed to a ceasefire that will start in 6 hours. Okay, well, that makes sense as to why Israel was striking super hard. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their final missions for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire upon the 24th hour. Wait, what? An official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful. on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will, I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America. God bless the world. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. He said, good game, guys. Well played. He said, GGWP. Fox News is live with J.D. Vance explaining the ceasefire.
Of the Iranian nuclear program that has already happened is not something they try to rebuild.
I want to get to the obliterated part in just a minute, but I just want to read this fully so I get the context here. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point, the ceasefire for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the world. He seems confident that this is all coming together.
That's right.
And when you left the White House, were you thinking this was all gelling here?
When I left the White House, I thought that we might be able to get it across the finish line before this broadcast, and it looks like the president has been able to do that. I mean, look, he's been working the phones constantly. Frankly, before the 12-day war started, but certainly over the past 12 days, the president's been extremely clear about America's national objective here. It is to create a world where Iran cannot build a nuclear weapon. We, of course, destroyed the nuclear program that they had, and the president told the entire team, we're going to work to make sure that they don't try to rebuild that nuclear capability in the future. And it's, look, this is a great thing. For Israel, think about this. They've accomplished an important military objective. They've helped us destroy the Iranian nuclear program. They've also destroyed the conventional missile capability of Iran that threatened the country of Israel. For the Iranians, I think this is a new opportunity to actually pursue the path of peace. As I said yesterday, what the Iranians have showed through their support of terror networks,
I think they kicked the can down the road.
Failed effort to build a nuclear weapon is that they're just not very good.
I don't think.
And I think
I do not think Israel. By the way, ironically enough, America didn't have to fucking respond at all to this. They could have just done this without trying to blow up the Iranian nuclear facility. Make no mistake. They could have also stopped Israel from even fighting in Iran at all. They accomplished nothing except for more death for no fucking reason, created panic, and basically Israel ate a bunch of missiles for the first time ever in its fucking 77-year history that was actually consequential. Having said that, however, I do think that Israel's ambitions for destabilizing Iran have not gone away. That is still their ultimate goal. So we shall see how they behave going forward.
And the Israelis and the Iranians have been shooting at each other. I think there's some recognition that that might continue for another few hours. And tomorrow really is a new day. The end of the 12-day war, the end of the Iranian nuclear program. And I really do believe the beginning of something very big for peace in the Middle East.
So you said totally obliterated. The president has said totally obliterated the Iran nuclear program.
Yeah.
Do you know for sure where all the highly enriched uranium is?
Well, Brett, I think that's actually not the question before us. The question before us is, can Iran enrich the uranium to a weapons-grade level, and can they convert that fuel to a nuclear weapon? And we know, based on the success of our mission, of course, the leadership of the president, but the incredible skill of our military, that the two mission objectives are completely successful. We know that they cannot build a nuclear weapon. Now, you asked about the highly enriched uranium.
Yeah, like 900 pounds of it.
But what we know, Brett, is that uranium is something that exists in very large supply. Our goal was to bury the uranium, and I do think the uranium is buried, but our goal was to eliminate the enrichment and eliminate their ability to convert that enriched fuel into a nuclear weapon. I think this is an important point, Brett, because so many of the folks who have focused on the highly enriched uranium,
60%.
The main focus, Brett, has been to destroy their enrichment capacity, because we don't want that 60% uranium to become 90% uranium. That's the real concern, and that's what was so successful about our mission.
So after all this, if the Iranian government survives as is, what's to stop it from rebuilding over time if they in fact moved the 60% highly enriched uranium? You know, that's the concern.
No, the big concern, Brett, and this is again what we destroyed, is their ability to enrich uranium. If they have 60% enriched uranium, but they don't have the ability to enrich it to 90%, and further, they don't have the ability to convert that to a nuclear weapon, that is mission success. That is the obliteration of their nuclear program, which is why the president, I think, rightly is using that term. But here's the question. If Iran is desperate to build a nuclear weapon in the future, then they're going to have to deal with a very, very powerful American military again. Our hope is that the lesson that the Iranians have learned here is, look, we can fly a bunker buster bomb from Missouri to Iran completely undetected without landing once on the ground, and we can destroy whatever nuclear capacity
Everyone
you build
knows
up.
this.
I think
What do
that
you
lesson
mean?
is what's going to teach them not to rebuild their nuclear capacity.
Yesterday, were you speaking on the president's behalf when you said he was not interested in regime change?
Well, Brett, what I've said is the American military, that is not our mission as regime.
They did this in 2002. They did this in Afghanistan. Or it was like, what? When was it? The longest running bombing mission was conducted by the same fucking plane 20 years ago.
Again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? MIGA.
Well, I think what the president is saying very clearly, Brett, is if the Iranian people want to do something about their own leadership, that's up to the Iranian people. What the American national security
Of course,
interest here
Iran
is very
agreed to a
simple.
ceasefire. They can carry on their nuke program in peace now. Dude, if they don't fucking make nukes, they're so dumb. And I do suspect that they don't, so we'll see. But I could totally see. I could totally see them not doing nukes.
Artificial intelligence, hardware, they want to sort of come into the new economy. And that was impossible when you had Iran that was, as the president said, acting like a bully across the Middle East. We really think that if the Iranians are smart about the path forward,
Iran was
this could be
acting
a new
like a bully.
dawn of an economic age of prosperity. Of course, for our Gulf Arab allies, for us, for the Israelis, for everybody. But it's going to require the Iranians play it smart from here.
The president called it very weak, the Iran missile firing on the U.S. base in Qatar, Al Udeid. Was it a face-saving move? How do you get from that, firing missiles at a U.S. base, to a ceasefire, as he details in this Truth Social?
Well, as the president said, they actually gave us some warning here. And we think they gave us some warning because they didn't want to kill Americans and they didn't want to escalate. There's definitely some symbolism to this, Brett. If you look at the Iranian attack, it was 14 missiles that they telegraphed ahead of time. We dropped 14 bunker buster bombs. As the president told me earlier, our missiles, our bombs were a little bit bigger than their bombs. Our bombs actually accomplished the...
I can't believe it. He did it again. Donald Trump did it again. He fucking broke something for no reason and then let chaos unfold for an extended period of time, only to turn around and be like, look at how big of a savior I am. Does this man ever do anything that is not within the Trump playbook, where he just goes in, breaks something, and then it says he's going to continue breaking it, and then stops the further breaking process? Half of the shit's broken already, and goes, look how fucking amazing I am. I just stopped. I could have broken way more. This is insane. He did it. He did the exact same thing on everything, from tariffs to any number of different things that he says he's going to do, it's always a spectacular failure. And the people are basically begging him not to do it from the start, only to turn around and be like, well, deportations. That's another one. People are like, dude, if you do these deportations, like, you're going to fucking disrupt key sectors of business. Like, there is a lot of migrant workers in a lot of these places. Like, this is a tremendous instability. He's like, nope, we're doing it. And then he goes, actually, you know what? No more are we doing deportation for the good immigrants. They're working in the farms. Then why did you do it to begin with? It's everything from the wall to immigration to war.
Regime, because it's evil and horrible and has done.
Firing government employees only to rehire them instantly. It's only been 5 months, man. It's only been 5 fucking months since this asshole came into power. And he's basically done this. He's done this like 100 different times. It's so
classified
stupid.
documents. They trust the president to do a good job. But importantly, Brett, I think he's threaded the needle quite well here. We had a very particular objective. It was profound and difficult to accomplish.
Do you
the
think
elimination of the Iranian nuclear program.
Do you think they were close?
And I think the president successfully did that. You're asking, were the Iranians close to a nuclear weapon? Brett, they were very close to a nuclear weapon. And what I encourage my fellow Americans to think about here is that a week ago, the Iranians were quite close to achieving a nuclear weapon. Now they cannot build a nuclear weapon. That is the biggest testament to the president's leadership and to the success of our mission. In 1 week, without, thank God so far, not losing a single American casualty, we have taken what was a threatening nuclear program that could have destabilized the entire world.
I'm thinking about it.
Now
Has
that
there
program
been
is
a
gone.
single
We did it
real
through
problem that this man has solved?
and also some very, very competent work from our troops.
Has there been a single real problem?
You're going to do an interview, and you get a true social seconds.
Republicans just
You have
invent
some sense
shit
of it, but it's pretty
hysterically
where
and then
you are being
take
asked about something the
initiative
president has just
to quote unquote
administration,
fix
Brett, it happens
the
quite a bit,
problem that
actually,
doesn't
but
even exist,
we knew this was coming.
that they
The
hallucinated.
draft, it was
And in the
interesting.
process
I
of
just
quote
read the
unquote
draft
fixing
about
this
2
problem
minutes
that didn't
before
even
we went on the
exist,
air.
they create
It
a
was a little
fuck ton
bit
more
different than what the
chaos
president had
and a
showed
fuck
me
ton
a
more
couple of hours
problems,
ago, but
only
again,
to
I knew
then
that he was
have the
working the
population
phones as I was
begging
on
to
the way over
stop.
here, so I knew exactly
And
what
then
we
they
were
do
gonna do.
actually end up
I love
stopping.
that about
And then
this
they're like,
presidency
come on,
and this
we're the
administration,
savior.
is he's always working.
We
He
are
doesn't
your
say, you know, the
salvation.
vice
We did
president's
it.
gonna do an interview, so I'm going to stop doing anything. He says, you know, we're going to do the American people's business. The vice president knows what I'm trying to accomplish, and if I get it done, great, because we're going to talk about it and celebrate it, because it is a thing to celebrate. I can't emphasize this enough, Brett.
COVID-19 vaccines were created on Trump's watch. Yeah, that's it. That's his signature accomplishment. That and the stimmy checks. Amazing.
Here's some other headlines tonight. Falling oil prices sent stocks up. The Dow surged 375. The S&P 500 finished ahead 57. The Nasdaq jumped 184. First major heat wave of the summer is hitting much of the nation. Temperatures soaring 10 to 20 degrees above average for more than 200 million Americans. Highs in the 90s, even creeping into the low 100s. The prosecution in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial expected to conclude its case tomorrow. Today, the jury viewed additional video recordings of the sex marathons that have played a prominent role in the case. Prosecutors have cited the drug-fueled multi-day events as evidence of sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy charges. The U.S. Supreme Court.
I need everyone to understand something. If this ceasefire holds, and I need you to understand this. This did not have to happen at all. I cannot think of a dumber fucking way that this could have gone. Like, no, Tehran is being hit right now because Israel oftentimes does one major barrage before they have to implement. Israel always goes all out on the last day of the ceasefire. They do that with Lebanon. They did that on the numerous short-term ceasefires in Gaza. I don't know if there's Iranian confirmation on the ceasefires yet, so I don't even know what that fucking means. But Israel usually will go all out in their last barrage of missiles
that took part in Saturday's U.S. strikes on Iran. Congressman, really appreciate your time. Just to start with the breaking news, what is your understanding of what the president just announced? Has the House conference been briefed on this ceasefire?
Well, no, we haven't. I just arrived back from our district and Whiteman Air Force Base, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But look, Phil, this is what success...
CNN said Iran did not accept it. We don't know yet. Dude, first of all, I told you, Iran is the fucking chillest. Ironically enough, Iran is restrained to a fault. So it would not shock me at all if they said yes to this ceasefire. I told you this before. Iran is a glutton for fucking punishment, dude. Are you kidding me? They love it. They love getting fucking whipped around and then going, oh yeah, we don't want any more, please. Iran has not received a ceasefire proposal. Trump announces a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Oh my God. I wonder if he just told Israel this and then tweeted it out with the hopes that Iran will say yes, because he knows Iran will most likely say yes. Why is Iran being so chill? Because they are a fucking... That's a weird way to say that. No, it's not a weird way to say that. They literally will get dominated over and over again by Israel and America, as they have so far. With the hopes that, like, America will stop punishing them super hard. God, we are living in the dumbest fucking... This is the dumbest order of events, only to be even dumber tomorrow. That is a fucking guarantee. But yeah, Iran said yes. Update. Iranian sources confirmed that the ceasefire with Israel has been agreed. According to one source, the truce will go into effect at 3:30 a.m. Jerusalem time. Is this not a big Iran W? They held out against nonstop strikes and did a significant amount of damage to Israel. I think it's not as bad for Iran as what could have happened. So yes, it is definitely a I think they're decently positioned on this. People that say no are not factoring in Israel's ambition here. I don't think this is over. I don't think this is over at all. And if it's actually over, it's only because Iran actually depleted the fucking Israeli air defenses. Which would be a pretty solid W. Chatters are saying, this doesn't seem like it's real. It seems so sloppy. Yeah, that's the Trump administration. What do you mean? It's the motherfucking Trump administration, dude. What is your expectation from these guys? This is how they operate. This is who they are.
It was an incredibly impressive operation. We'll see if it leads to what the president and you hope for in the days and weeks ahead. Congressman Mark Alford, really appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you, Phil. Take care.
And up next, we'll continue to follow the breaking news. President Trump just announced a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. Says it will begin in the next 6 hours. I'll get reaction from a former Army Lieutenant General who has extensive...
Live Aid, when rock and roll took on the world. Premieres July 13th on CNN.
It can be...
Big for peace in the Middle East.
Vice President, moments ago, talking about this breaking news, the response from Iran to the weekend attacks and President Trump's announcement of a ceasefire and how that all goes. We're going to talk about that in the future. Joining us, two experts on Iran, Kareem Sajipour, he's of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, and Norman Rule, a former CIA and Office of the Director of National Intelligence Manager for Iran. Norman, let me start with you.
Both are assets.
The ceasefire and the Truth Social, and I asked the Vice President about it. There's a healthy dose of skepticism because the Iranians don't have a great track record of meeting whatever they talk about, either publicly or privately. Is that fair?
That's more than fair.
I'm going to keep it a $150. This is not as much as an Iranian victory as it is kind of a fucking major L for Israel. This is not as much of an Iranian victory, but it is a fucking ginormous L for Israel. Israel came in, wanted to actually fuck up any kind of like standing that Iran might have, pushed America into it, got their shit pushed in the process, at least their air defenses, and now can't even, unless things change, and chatters, things might change. Things might change. Remember, Israel's a very dangerous, very unstable government, but this was a fucking-tacular L for Israel. Because their goal, and this is not a secret, their goal is Iran becoming a failed state. Their goal is to basically fucking erode the Iranian state capabilities and to have them never be able to send missiles that penetrate the Israeli defenses ever again. And all they got in the process was like America forcibly coming into the equation. No actual military priorities were accomplished in this process, and they didn't even get to do the full prize, which is regime destabilization, like complete dismantling of the regime, and turning Iran into a fucking fail state. It's crazy. Several airstrikes within the last minutes at northeastern Tehran. Is a major L for Iran, man. Iran basically declared they have zero deterrence and Israel can go again. Why wouldn't they go for assassinations on Iranian leaders next? As long as there are no troops deployed, the American public will eat it up. No, that's why I said I don't think it's a W for Iran, but it is a major L for Israel. Iran being fooled a third time? Oh, no, for sure. They got nothing, and Israelis felt actual weapons on home soil. Benny's finished as it stands? I don't think so. I don't think he is. I don't think Benjamin Netanyahu is finished after this. No real announcement from Khamenei, by the way. Why would Iran agree with the ceasefire while Israel's still bombing? Every country in the region knows that when Israel is at the precipice of a ceasefire, they bomb extra hard. Weird. Axios says Israel and Iran have agreed to a ceasefire that will begin in 6 hours. This makes no sense. No Iranian sources said anything. I'm not even kidding when I say... I'm not even kidding. Like... I can fucking see. I don't know what Amwaj Media's. This is breaking news that will be continuously updated. Iran and Israel have agreed to a ceasefire. Morandi said it's fake. No ceasefire, fake news. Zionists are in trouble. I don't know. I think Iran will eat the fucking ceasefire at any off-ramp that Iran will get, they'll take. I think as much as I respect Syed Mohammed Morandi, I think I could see America being like, oh, it's a ceasefire, we did it, without telling Iran, knowing full well that Iran will most likely take on the ceasefire or something. I'm actually surprised this is successful deterrence. I mean, 12 hours for Israel to begin ceasefire, but 6 hours for Iran. This seems very strange to give Israel 6 hours of unrestrained and unopposed attacks on Iran. Yes. It could be another trick from the Trump administration. Don't know why the Iranian government would agree to such a fucking idiotic proposal. Trump's claim for a ceasefire agreement between the Zionist regime and Iran. Donald Trump claimed a ceasefire agreement to end the war between the Zionist regime and Iran. Meanwhile, CNN reported citing a senior Iranian official that Tehran had not received any ceasefire proposals. A senior Iranian official told CNN that Iran will continue to fight until a lasting peace is achieved and considers Israeli and American statements to be a deception to justify attacks on Iranian interests. The official said at this very moment the enemy is attacking Iran and Iran is on the verge of escalating its retaliatory attacks and is not listening to the lies of its enemies. The funny thing about misdirection as a war tactic is that you can only credibly use it once before it's nullified. Trump did that with the initial Israel attacks on Iran, but now they've painted themselves as untrustworthy in perpetuity over it. No, but it doesn't matter. When you're the most powerful fucking state, when you're the most powerful state, it doesn't matter. People are desperate to believe you. You know what I mean? Let's see what Al Jazeera is saying.
That I don't want to be too hopeful is that we see the continuation of Israeli strikes, whether or not this social media post is going to be translated into real, let's say, peace or real suspension of the strikings between the two sides remains to be really seen. We have to keep in mind that there are several points in this regard. First, we have to wait to see whether Iran is going to accept that proposal. Second, we are not sure if Israelis are going to accept that proposal because of the very fact that we see the continuation. Also, by nature, this is not a fair proposal. You just give some time for one of these sides to continue their strikes, ask the other to keep silent, and go on with just being silent and then receiving more and more attacks targeting your territories. That doesn't seem fair, and of course this is going to be something that should be taken into consideration when it comes to Iran's calculations. And at the time being, Iran is trying to use the most possible amount of strategic precision when it comes to the next steps down the road. And also there is one important point that also, Cyril, we have to keep in mind. The Iranians are saying that they're going to continue to strike back as long as the Israeli strikes continue. The reality on the ground is far from that point that we can see a ceasefire at the time being, since they are continuing. And also, it was the Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, a couple of days ago, coming out to say that Iran is not going to accept any imposed peace. If this recent statement by U.S. President is going to be considered as an imposed peace, obviously based upon the previous statements, we can say that Iran may not accept it. But still, we don't have any official statement. We don't have any official...
What if this is a way to be like, oh, Iran, like just lie and say Iran told us that we accepted a ceasefire only to continue bombing Israel, so we have to actually be the fucking peacekeepers in the region and attack Iran, maybe. I don't know. I don't know anymore. This is not a normal state. America, I'm saying this with 100% sincerity. I know this is probably shocking for some people to hear, because your expectation is that like the United States of America is supposed to be this like honest actor here. But I can't trust America's statements. I definitely can't trust Israel. And I 100% in this process, at least, trust the Iranian side and their assessment of the situation, or what they are saying, a lot more than I do America. They're not the ones who were like, oh, let's do a negotiation and then fucking attacked. I mean, we're doing a war, but it wasn't a war before Israel made it a war. What do you mean? You can't say we're doing a war.
Donald Trump says
it literally wasn't a war before Israel decided it is supposed to be a war. Breaking CNN citing an Iranian official, Tehran has not received any proposal for a ceasefire. The statements of Israel and the United States are a trick to justify attacks on Iranian interests, and at this moment, the enemy is attacking Iran. I will say, Israel does actually increase the intensity of the strikes. right before, and they have increased the intensity of the strikes today. So right before a ceasefire happens, Israel notoriously will blow up way more than they normally do. Yet another reason why you should not fucking trust them ever. I don't know anymore. I don't fucking know anymore. I don't know. An incredibly stupid spectacle. Iran's semi-official mayor's new agency casting doubt on Trump, alleging of a ceasefire between Iran and Israel, preceding the publishing of the text of his announcement with the headline, "Liar Trump's imaginary plan to establish a ceasefire." Iran says, Iran issues evacuation warning for Tel Aviv residents. Okay. That means that they're still striking Israel. Iran has issued an evacuation warning for the residents of Israel's Ramat Gan district near Tel Aviv. The move comes shortly after an Israeli military spokesman issued a similar warning to the residents of an area in Iranian capital Tehran, saying the army would be launching an attack. Bro, what the fuck is happening? I don't know anymore. I don't. What? I'm sorry. This is the fucking stupidest. What? Scroll down, keep reading. Why are you saying scroll down? Why? Why? There's nothing else. It's like older shit. There are no W's for Iran as long as the U.S. is allowed to do shock and awe. Air superiority warfare. U.S. will have favorable trades when it comes to exchanging bombs. It will only escalate. They normalize killing Iranian generals and calling it a special operation as if it's not escalating a war. Why wouldn't U.S./Israel push it further in a month? They will. I think they will. That's why I'm saying it's not a W for Iran at all. People who say this is a major W for Iran are coping. Iran is weak. Like in 2020, when Donald Trump executed Qasem Soleimani, Iran was still weak, and it didn't show any fucking significant retaliatory measures to make any of the surrounding nations that played a role in this actually suffer repercussions for doing such a severe escalation of violence, for withstanding such a severe escalation of violence from America. Israel flew into Iran amidst negotiations and assassinated multiple IRGC commanders, basically fucking brought fresh faces into the IRGC. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi said Tehran's attack on Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar came in response to the U.S. aggression. He said Iran will be ready to respond again in case of further action by the U.S., according to a statement posted by the Foreign Ministry's account on Telegram, that this is meaningless. Okay, yeah, they'll do another symbolic fucking
Trump's
retaliation.
word with a grain of salt when he's like, total victory. We don't know if it's total victory yet.
Yeah, and to be clear, and I don't want to speak for you guys, but like the reason why I'm saying I'm still trying to think through how to think about it, like there's just a lot of detail, plus decades of failed negotiations or pulling out or stringing along of these particular players and actors in this particular region.
Here's my insane conspiracy hour. Are you ready for this? Wee woo, insane conspiracy alert. Let's say Mossad has actually deeply penetrated the IRGC and they assassinated the top level leadership, the highest level of loyalty. And actually all these other fucking people that are in the IRGC that are now taking their places are all also pro-Israel people. And then they facilitate a military coup. Obviously this is unlikely, but I'm saying maybe that's what they're going to do. Who knows? That's why they killed all the high-level IRGC people.
Hours, I think, after she posted on
that's my
or on
conspiracy.
X, it feels like a complete bait and switch.
I don't believe this, by the way.
The neocons, warmongers,
I don't know. I'm just shooting the shit. Everything is so fucking insane. So. Brother, look at what Mossad did with Eli Cohen in Syria. I wouldn't be surprised. It just feels like after Iran stops, Israel will assassinate Ayatollah. I just feel like could that happen? I mean, they would have. I feel like they would have assassinated Ayatollah right now. Like this was their opportunity. I genuinely believe that when Israel started this, they thought they could bring America fully. And I think they thought they could withstand. I think they thought they could withstand Iranian counters better than they actually did. So they failed on that front, which actually limited the amount of time that they had to conduct military campaigns. They successfully brought the United States into the conversation, but not beyond the initial point of escalation, especially because Iran did not eat the bait and then severely escalate and punish America or even close the Strait of Hormuz. So now there's this supposedly quote-unquote fake ceasefire. Israel did take an L on two fronts. It took an L because it wanted to do the final final solution to Iran, destabilize the Iranian government, destroy it as a state, and it failed to do so. It failed to bring America in to be able to do this final ambition. How is it fake? Well, the Iranian side fucking says that it's not real. Israel is bombing Tehran. Iran is saying that they're going to bomb Tel Aviv any moment now. Doesn't seem like a very good ceasefire proposal. I still think it's probably real, but I don't know. I think you're wrong. Israel predicted they would lose about 4,000 to 5,000 people in a war with Iran, and they only lost about 6. Are you fucking insane? You think the Israeli government was willing to kill 5,000 Jews in Israel so they could bomb fucking Iranian military positions? Do you know how much of a destabilizing force that would be for Israeli society? Israel would be over. They might as well end the government right then and there. Yeah, what they say and what they actually believe is crazy. Brother, who would you ever be able to prove to? Who would you ever be able to prove to that like Tel Aviv is the safest place on the planet for Jews ever again? If Israel's actions amounted to 5,000 Jews dying in the process because they literally decided that they wanted to go to war with Iran, and then Iran just pummeled their fucking pummeled the residential buildings and pummeled the fucking neighborhoods and even the bunkers and shit like that. It would be over. That the Israeli project is done. America would also join I think America would probably join the fight the moment that like more than 25 elderly Jewish people died. They also failed at keeping the war going on for longer, so attention come back to Gaza to some extent, if this report is true. 50 civilians seeking aid were massacred earlier today, as in many other days, but it got negligible media coverage. Usually this would be on the front page of Haaretz, but everything is full of Iran now, and I'm sure this is true to an extent internationally. It absolutely is. No one is even remotely talking about Gaza. I have here, but I have yet to see any fucking serious coverage being talked about in Gaza. The one senator, much props, is given here, is Chris Van Hollen. Chris Van Hollen tweeted yesterday, released a statement saying 400 plus Palestinians were slaughtered on their way to receive aid, to get aid, since the beginning of Israel's strikes on Iran. Very little attention has been given to Israel's conduct in Gaza. What is this? No, this is the same article that we saw. This is the only article that we've seen that confirms. Yeah, did Iran actually agree to silently absorb Israeli fire for 12 hours straight? What a strange agreement. I don't think it's fucking real. Kyle calls it a fake ceasefire. Okay, well, Kyle Kulinski is even less of a direct party. I would rather listen to Yashar than Kyle Kulinski on this. I'm not even kidding when I say this. Like, I love Kyle, but what the fuck does he know about what's going on internally in Iran? At least Yashar has like relatives and shit and can sometimes break news Iran related. Taking shots at Kyle because he cooked his dumbass uncle? No. No, I love Kyle. And the only reason why I couldn't watch Kyle destroy Uncle Chunk Weigert is because I couldn't stand to watch him get eviscerated. Kyle's just speculating like you, bro. Relax. Yo, that's what I'm saying. Guys, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I love Kyle. And I respect Kyle's analysis. But what the fuck does he know? He knows just as little as I do about whether or not this ceasefire is real. I'm looking for a fucking primary source here, okay? I'm looking for, like, even the Iranian news agencies are not a primary source in this situation. I need the foreign minister to say something, or I need the fucking Ayatollah's account to tweet something. Like, like this right here, Trump announced that Iran will start the ceasefire first upon the 12th hour, and Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, there will be an official end to the war. This is primarily what is making me very skeptical of this news. Who has ever heard of a ceasefire agreement where one side agrees to stop firing, but the other side is explicitly allowed to keep attacking for another 6 hours? And as well, what does it mean that there's an official end to the war 12 hours after the ceasefire? There was no official war declaration. This is an invention of Trump's brain where countries officially declare war on each other. Like, none of this makes sense. What is going on? God damn it, this government is so fucking stupid. I'm sorry. We have shred every single, like, I don't want to, at the risk of sounding like a liberal, I do want to say there are some rules and some norms that are important to abide by so that we can make sense of events that are unfolding, so that we can have a sense of stability. Okay? This is one of those things where, like, the president shouldn't be irresponsibly tweeting out the end to a fucking a 12-day conflict without every party agreeing to it. Like, this should be an official communique. And it makes it really hard to read Trump's Truth Social post, not even Twitter post, but his Truth Social post as official communiques of the government. Like, he's the last person. Arabia says, an Iranian official confirms an agreement has been reached to stop the war between Iran and Israel. Like, what is, this is the only account. I mean, this seems more official, but, like, does it mean that it's the 12-hour, 6-hour deal? You giving Trump props or still hating? Why would I give him props for anything? Are you fucking stupid? What is their prop? If Trump's quote unquote ceasefire is real. Okay. What was accomplished? What the fuck was accomplished here? They were in the midst of a negotiation. Israel struck amidst the negotiation and then got fucking a bunch of city blocks reduced to rubble in retaliation in Israel as well. 12 days of complete halt to any economic activity for Tel Aviv and for Israel in general. They had their fucking their energy grid attacked. Iran didn't have nukes anyway. We don't even know if they like actually successfully hit Fordow, which is deep underground, but it doesn't even matter because the enriched uranium wasn't in Fordow. Iran had revealed that far before America came in and struck Fordow. So what happened? Donate to denims, everyone. Okay. Also, of course, note with the Nobel Peace Prize talk, starting a war right now was a choice by Netanyahu that Trump enabled. He then set a risky new precedent of direct U.S. attacks on Iran, which will be called upon in the future, and dramatically hardened sentiments in Tehran. We're about to see an avalanche of this spin. Note that U.S. and Iranian officials and experts are clear Iran's nuclear program faced limited damage, which means the root of the current crisis is yet to be tackled. Doing so peacefully was always hard. This war likely made it harder. I don't understand this at all, man. Iranian state-affiliated media. Yeah, that's Mer News, which is... What is happening? And now the Israel Defense Forces have released 2 more evacuation orders for both Mehran and District 6 in northern Tehran. And Iran said they're going to retaliate and hit Tel Aviv. You're the news guy? Brother, I'm the news guy, but the news is insane. For the record, this does not mean that there is no ceasefire, for the record. I just need you to understand. Breaking, New York Times, Israeli military spokesman declines to comment on Trump's ceasefire statement. What? We trust Iran media now? Wait, what? Yes. Yes. There are different, like FARS, I think is like what, the highest level. Like the Iranian state media is the most reliable as far as like official communiques, which resembles official communiques. Mer is semi reliable. It's a state affiliated outlet. Okay. And the highest degree of reliability is directly coming from the Ayatollah account or another official like the foreign minister or something like that. This does make me think that there may be something happening, but that Trump jumped the gun or they're refusing to comment because they have no idea what's going on. Iran's New York mission declined to comment to France 24 when asked if they have received the ceasefire proposal from the U.S., whether or not Tehran has accepted it. This was all just war propaganda for Israel. J.D. Vance already calling it a 12-day war now, and they're going to say this was the war that Israel obliterated Iran's nukes. It was never about nukes. That doesn't mean anything. What the American government says about how fucking successful this was means nothing. It's fucking lower than dirt. Nobody trusts America. They can try and pump this to the dumbest fucking morons, but there's already enough partisan enmity inside of the United States of America, especially because Trump mishandles shit like this all the fucking time, that this means that the dumbest NPCs that you know will go, dude, Trump did a 12-day nuclear agreement with fucking Israel. He's your president. He's the GOAT. That's it. No one other than the dumbest people in America will respond to this positively, unless it's a real ceasefire, in which case there might be some people that will eat that propaganda. But I don't know. I don't know what is going on. According to Reuters, Qatar's Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Mohammed bin Al Thani secured Iran's agreement to a U.S. ceasefire proposal during a phone call recently with Tehran. I mean, that's Ocean Defender. I don't know. Trump may be claiming a ceasefire, but he supported an Israeli assault on Iran in the middle of diplomacy. If this truce is real, will Israel now halt its assassinations and sabotage? None of its strategic goals were achieved. The ceasefire would now mark Israeli failure. I don't know what is going on. I don't know what's happening. I'm telling you, I don't know what's happening. There is no way to know what's happening because this is the most, Trump is so insane that it is impossible to know what is happening. Okay? But if you think Israel striking Iran means that a ceasefire is not happening, that's not the case. Israel always strikes way harder before, if anything, it's further proof that a ceasefire might be happening, because Israel strikes way harder when a ceasefire is imminent. I don't know the details of the ceasefire, however, because the idea that like there's going to be a 6-hour period where Israel can strike without ever getting struck back is insane to me. I don't know why Iran would ever agree to such a decision. But yeah, Israel always does this. They did it in Lebanon. This is their modus operandi. This is the way they operate. Check Al Jazeera. It's breaking news.
The equation for Israel, but I agree with a lot of observers and analysts that believe that Israel's intentions were much greater than simply knocking out Iran's nuclear program. It was about,
if this ceasefire holds, if this is like a real ceasefire, it's a major fucking L to Israel, but it's also still a significant L to Iran, and I don't think Israel will stop in its ambitions of destabilizing Iran. But they didn't achieve it in this 12-day war. That was their goal. That's the reason why they started it. It had nothing to do with the fucking nukes or anything like that.
hegemony in the region, and it sees the last kind of remaining obstacle to that as, you know, Iran and its axis of resistance in the region. So I think it was dead set on changing that equation inside of Iran. It obviously hasn't accomplished that. Will it be satisfied with a serious degradation of Iran's nuclear program? Maybe that's enough. Maybe Netanyahu has changed his fortunes within the Israeli political calculus as a result of this, as a result of getting the Americans on board to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. Maybe that's enough of a win where all sides feel a sense of accomplishment.
This is Al Jazeera, live from Doha. I'm Mohammed Jamjoom with extended coverage of the latest escalation in the Middle East. In the last hour, President Donald Trump has announced what he says is a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Iran. He's congratulated both countries for agreeing to a complete and total end to hostilities. He says the ceasefire will take effect in stages over 24 hours. Neither Israel nor Iran have confirmed that they've agreed to such a ceasefire. This is what President Trump wrote. Congratulations, everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions. For 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially,
what does that mean?
Ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire.
What does that mean?
And upon the 24th hour,
what does any of this mean, dude? Like, does this imply that Trump is also... Does this mean that Trump is also giving credence to the Iranian operations on Israel? Like, he's like, yeah, Iran has got to conduct some operations in Israel as well. Like, what does that mean?
To end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't. We'll be unpacking the latest developments shortly with our correspondents in Amman, Tehran, and Washington, D.C. Let's go live now to Heidi Jo Castro. She joins us from Washington, D.C. So, Heidi, the speed with which all this is developing is pretty remarkable. You know, in the past couple of days, you've had Donald Trump first suggesting that regime change might be possible in Iran.
What is
now, in this post, he's saying, God bless Iran. All of this happening so quickly. What else have you been hearing?
That's right, and we're getting a little more reporting from the news agency Reuters, which says that Trump and his Vice President J.D. Vance had discussed the ceasefire with the Emir of Qatar shortly after Iran had launched those airstrikes against the U.S. airbase there, and that they were informing the Qataris that Israel at that point had agreed to the ceasefire and were asking the Qataris for help to then persuade Iran to also agree. Reuters also reporting that Qatar's prime minister was the one that secured Iran's agreement to the U.S. ceasefire proposal in a call with Iran. Those are the latest lines as far as how this ceasefire announced by the U.S. president developed. We also heard more from his vice president speaking on Fox News shortly after Trump announced the ceasefire on social media. J.D. Vance, a vice president, saying that he had seen Trump on the phone at the White House leading up to the moment that he departed the White House, that the two had been working on the terms of this deal, that it had shifted a bit in the last 2 hours, and then giving the U.S. president credit, saying for taking the deal across the finish line, and then saying that this 12-day war, as Trump now wants to coin it, is an important reset moment for the entire region. So again, of course, as we have been cautioning, we're still waiting for confirmation from Iran, from Israel, about the terms of this deal. But as announced by Trump, and if it takes effect, as he says, it indeed would be a diplomatic coup, dramatic turnaround, as you said, in just the last few days, going from Trump saying that he was open to regime change in Iran to now saying, God bless Iran. And then after this airstrike from Iran against the Air Force Base, the U.S. Air Base in Doha, all of this happening in just the last few hours, and certainly giving Trump that much sought-after ceasefire as the deal maker.
Okay, Reuters Iran correspondent has confirmed it. Senior Iranian official confirms to Reuters Tehran agreeing to Qatar-mediated U.S. proposed ceasefire with Israel. So the outline is being formed here. It's like, I think Trump just got off the phone and instantly fucking locked it. Like, I think he just got off the phone and just started tweeting. Okay? I'm trying to make sense of what took place just now in this like last hour. Okay? And I think he just basically just threw it out there. Okay? And in the process of tweeting like a fucking child, he might have just like written the wrong thing as far as like the boundaries of the ceasefire, which is why everyone was confused. Because like, I think that the ceasefire is probably not giving a 6-hour window to Israel to continue striking Iran without any retaliation. That feels very weird. That doesn't make any sense. Like, that's not how any of this works, right? So I don't know if that happened. Also, Israeli strikes hits Tehran despite Trump's ceasefire announcement. It's been over 40 minutes since Donald Trump announced that a ceasefire had been reached between Iran and Israel to begin in 6 hours. The Israeli military, since the announcement, issued evacuation warnings to Tehran's District 6 and 7, as well as the Mehran area, citing imminent strikes on regime infrastructure. Shortly afterward, Israeli warplanes launched multiple airstrikes across the Iranian capital, Tehran. Iran's state-affiliated Mehr News reported explosions in several neighborhoods in northern and eastern Tehran, along with additional blasts in unnamed cities. In response, Iran has issued an evacuation warning for Israel's Ramat Gan district near Tel Aviv, also reported by Mehr. Iran has reportedly downed another Israeli Hermes drone downed in Tehran. I'm not going to lie, this is probably one of the most insane things that I've ever had the displeasure of reporting on in real time. This is truly unique. As I said in the initial possible ceasefire implementation, it is not unique for Israel to strike and strike super hard right at the precipice of a ceasefire. As a matter of fact, this further confirms that the ceasefire is real. What doesn't make sense about the ceasefire boundaries that Trump just tweeted out unceremoniously, but very normal for Trump, is that Iran would agree to a ceasefire for in the next 6 hours, whereas Israel gets to keep bombing for an additional 6 hours. That doesn't make sense. Behind the scenes, the ceasefire was agreed upon through Qatari and American mediation between Israel and Iran. Sources familiar with the matter said after the attack on the American base, Iran conveyed a message to the White House via Qatar that it would not carry out further attacks and that its response was over, according to a source familiar with the details. The White House responded to Iran with its own message emphasizing that it would not respond militarily to the Iranian attack and that the United States was ready to resume negotiations on the nuclear agreement. Talks then continued between the U.S. and Israel and between Qatar and Iran to agree to terms of the ceasefire and the time at which it would begin. Netanyahu has ordered ministers to not comment on the recent developments until further notice. Source Israeli Channel 12. Okay, so considering, okay, here, let's operate on the notion that this ceasefire is real, okay? Let's also further operate on the notion that the ceasefire does not have a 6-hour additional window of striking for Israel, because it's a normal ceasefire as opposed to whatever the fuck Trump tweeted out. Okay? Let's say this ceasefire was implemented. And it's a real ceasefire. It makes sense that Iran would say yes to it. As I told you time and time again, Iran, given how restrained its retaliation has been against Israel and certainly against the United States of America, just purely symbolic to say, like, we're still here and we have the capabilities of striking your bases. It was an off-ramp for America and it was an off-ramp for Iran, and America took that off-ramp, so it makes sense. This, however, is horrible for Israel. The reason why this is horrible for Israel is because when Israel initially implemented this operation, I don't know, Gay Lion or whatever the fuck they called it, I forget, Lion in the night sky like shooting stars, I could really use a wish right now. When they started the Operation Prosperity Lion, okay? When they did that, when they said Israel is lion, not India, okay? Operation Israel is the real lion, not India. Stop saying India is lion too, sir. When they started that, their goal wasn't to just, like, I don't know, take out the fucking nuclear facilities or some shit. Their goal was, and the reason why they started with a decapitation strike was to finally hit the big one, hit the big target, destabilize Iran, regime change in Iran. Now, their calculations might have changed in the process over the course of the past 12 days because they were not able to keep up defenses they were not maybe able to keep up their defenses, and they didn't have the capacity to continue going, and they weren't able to bring in America in a more significant way. Okay? And therefore, they had to stand down. But ultimately, this would be a big L for Israel's goals. Because Israel did not just want to, I don't know, disrupt the nuclear negotiations. They wanted to disrupt the nuclear negotiations with an additional goal. And the goal is, it's okay to accept that you were wrong. Trump W, it's Jover, wrong. Copium, it's okay to accept that you were wrong. Wrong on what? So Israel just wanted to what? Strike Iran? That's what it is for like a couple days to get their nuts off? Like, what do you mean? Israel, from its announcements from the start, signaled that this was the final battle, the crown jewel. Okay, chair and rope, Hassan. Why don't you just tell me to kill myself? Why do you have to go through this like pussy ass route? I mean, it's not gonna happen. But what do you mean chair and rope? Thoughts on 9/11? Trump 2020, baby. Some items have more value on traders, but items like a GPU will go for more on flea market. This motherfucker's been following me since 2019. What did Iran really do to Israel? It seems like not much. No, I think the fact that Iran was able to, for 12 days in a row, pummel Israel and keep Israeli society inside of bunkers is pretty significant. You have to remember, Israel's never experienced this kind of retaliation before. What they lost in the process is also super significant, which is precisely the reason why I did not say that this was a W for Iran, but it was an L for Israel. But make no mistake, the fact that Israel's currently striking Tehran with increased intensity does not mean that there is no ceasefire. It actually is further evidence that a ceasefire is imminent. Israel always strikes with extra intensity on the last couple of hours of a ceasefire process. Thank you for the 100 gifted subs, Burgles. Perhaps this could be a way to buy time and replenish Israel's Iron Dome interceptors and then relaunch the aggression later. That could be the case. And this time they could start with like a straightforward decapitation strike to push the entire region into further chaos. I don't think Israel is happy with this situation. No matter what they say, they will probably come around and claim that they got massive W's here. The joint partnership is stronger than ever before. But I don't think they're happy with this effort at all, because their goal was to bring America. Their goal was to basically bring America into the fucking fold and take the war to Iran. Clipped and shipped. Wait, what? You're such a fucking clown. Based Zach Rar. Mocking the working class again, eh, Hassan? Trump too based. You soy losers can't handle it. Put more words in his mouth. Oh my God, all the Trump supporters are crying in the chat. Amazing. You're right, guys. Your glorious God King, he did it. He brought the world back to, I don't know, 12 days prior. Because if you recall, before Israel struck Iran, the position was Iran wasn't striking Israel and Israel wasn't striking Iran. None of the military goals were achieved in the process. They didn't get the enriched uranium. I'm so confused as to why people are celebrating this as though it's like a... I'm so confused as to why people are celebrating this as though this is like a significant W. A question: with Iran striking, can the U.S. invoke NATO like they did Iraq? I mean, they're not going to do that.
saying is that, look, if the war ended, if this agreement was reached, Israel still reserved the right to respond and hit Iran if they felt, one, any sort of threat, but also if they saw that Iran was rearming, if they felt that Iran was rebuilding the nuclear facilities that, according to the U.S., have been obliterated, but still there has been nothing official from the Israeli government. It's worth mentioning that Netanyahu himself, along with all of his government officials, have repeatedly broken ceasefire agreements in the past. We saw this in Lebanon and we saw this in Gaza, and it's actually still ongoing in Lebanon because that agreement is still in place, though fragile. During the ceasefire in Gaza several months ago, there were continuous Israeli strikes and hundreds of people who were killed because Israel claimed that there were violations of the agreement, which gave them this green light to respond. They say the same thing about attacking what they call targets in southern Lebanon and assassinating other officials related to Hezbollah. So there are a lot of concerns about a ceasefire agreement when it comes to Israel maintaining it because some of their conditions are so severe. Iran not rebuilding any sort of nuclear facilities, Iran not rearming, not continuing to build weapons, but still nothing official from the Israeli prime minister.
All right, that's Al Jazeera's Hamda Salhoud joining us live from Amman in Jordan. Thanks so much, Hamda. Adam Clements is a U.S. foreign policy analyst and former Pentagon official. He joins us now live from Washington, D.C. Adam, thanks so much for being with us here on Al Jazeera. Let me ask you first, there have been so many developments the past few days and the past few hours.
Iran now says agreed. Trump, Israel and Iran agree to ceasefire. Iran have not received any ceasefire proposal. Israel declined to comment on ceasefire. Iran now says agreed to U.S. proposed ceasefire with Israel. All while Israel is still striking Iran, and Iran is still stating that they will strike Israel. Israel and U.S. going to strike again when they get close to the nuke, so this ceasefire is just a piece of paper to wipe your ass with? Dude, the Iran nuclear enrichment was simply a way to fucking harden their position so they can actually maintain their civilian nuclear infrastructure, okay? They were under no obligation to not enrich uranium because Trump had already destroyed the JCPOA and was already sanctioning them as though they had violated the JCPOA when they hadn't. Of course they're going to fucking enrich uranium. What are you talking about? It is a way to try to gain leverage so that you can reduce the fucking sanctions or just, end the sanctions entirely. Honestly, sad seeing so many Gen Z service members cheering this on like another forever war is something we need, being cutesy and acting like this is an immediate W. A lot of them weren't born in 2003. I mean, whatever, dude. I mean, they got their heart set out. They'll learn. They'll learn the lesson the hard way, I think. The fate of every active duty service member is to either, become the dumbest hog of all time or to inevitably become a Hasanabi head and a dedicated anti-war veteran. That's it. There's only two ways for the Western man. In both ways, your wife is probably having sex with Jody. In both of those pathways, there are some similarities regardless. And you either learn the lesson the hard way and change trajectory, or you learn, or you just never learn that lesson and you continue and you become a Fox News commentator. USA still blew Iran's nuclear sites. Wouldn't that be a W for Israel nonetheless? No, dude. Why the fuck would that be a W for Israel? Israel doesn't give a shit about Iran's fucking nuclear capabilities. America doesn't give a shit about Iran's nuclear capabilities. They don't have nukes. That's just a lie that they told everybody so they could justify going to war with Iran. What is happening? it's kind of interesting how quickly people will just go, yeah, these administrations that have lied in perpetuity and in broad daylight, I'm going to believe the things that they're telling me. Like, what happened? What happened to like a healthy dose of skepticism? This doesn't make any sense. If reports of a ceasefire between Israel and Iran are substantiated, expect an Iranian civil war between royalists and MEK supporters in exile. Rudy Giuliani has already fired the first shot on behalf of his MEK patrons. Yeah, the real civil war is going to be between the MEK and the royalists on who gets to be the true puppet for the inevitable Iranian regime change. Diplomat briefed on the ceasefire talks on Fox News. President Trump spoke with Qatar's emir and informed him the U.S. got Israel to agree with the ceasefire with Iran. The president asked Qatar to help persuade Iran to do the same. Following the Vice President Vance coordinated with Qatar's Prime Minister on the details. This effort proved successful, and following discussion with the Qatari PM and the Iranians agreed. The deal was coordinated at the highest level by the president and vice president and the Qatari emir and prime minister directly. Despite having been attacked just hours earlier, the Qataris set aside their grievances and prioritized regional security to get the deal done, the diplomat added. Iran did not get regime change by the collective West and Israel. They won easy. No, they didn't. They did not win. This is not a W for Iran. Okay? I mean, Israel, it's an L for Israel, but it's not a W for Iran. Please. Israel literally came in amidst negotiations with the West, showed that they had the capacity to actually fucking manipulate Western nations and even the United States of America and bring them onto the cause, assassinated a fuck ton of IRGC commanders, and established air superiority over key parts of Iran in the process, kept bombing Iran in the fucking process. No, it's not a massive fucking W for, it's not a W for Iran at all. Yes, they avoided regime change for now. They avoided becoming a failed state for now. That doesn't mean that this ended. So Vietnam lost against the U.S.? No, Vietnam did not lose against the United States because Vietnam was able to literally stop the U.S. forces and become a singular state again. A state led by the Vietnamese. Iran and the regime change ambitions have not actually fucking stopped. Defender always wins when they stop aggressor. No, because the aggressor has not stopped is what I'm saying. Do you think Israel is done? You think Israel's like, all right, I guess we just took this L, it's over? No, of course not. That's why I'm saying it's more so a spectacular defeat for Israel as opposed to a major victory for Iran. Seeing more reports on this, seems they definitely assassinated someone. Reports of possible assassination strike in Tehran. Yeah, we haven't even made damage assessments on what this last round of Israeli fucking missile strikes look like either. So there's also that. Initial reports of a targeted assassination strike against a senior official of the Iranian capital of Tehran. God damn it. It's not even fucking... Killed the negotiator, bet you anything? I can see that. Does Iran win in showcasing Americans' barbarism? Obviously, America's always been barbaric, but on a world stage, no. Nobody gives a shit. Every world leader, I mean, just like China was not able to, I think, successfully show to the Western leaders that America is a unreliable ally and unfit to lead global trade in the tariffs back and forth even though they had a lot more power to do so than Iran. I don't think that Iran showing restraint and their interest in diplomacy does anything to leadership of the Western world. They all fucking despise Iran. They also, I think, have drafted a withdrawal. Iran, I think, drafted a withdrawal from leaving the International Atomic Agency energy. So that's a fucking ginormous L for everybody, except for Iran.
U.S. interests as well in this, with those missiles launched at the U.S. base in Qatar hours ago. Out front now, Senator Chris Murphy of the Foreign Relations Committee. And Senator Murphy, so Trump says there's this complete and total ceasefire. We have, it seems to be, muzzling out of Israel, right? They're not talking, which would indicate, as Jeremy says, perhaps something. Explosions in Tehran, but neither side speaking. Is this ceasefire real?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, what we know is that Donald Trump doesn't tell the truth a lot, so you can't rely on Donald Trump's statements. And frankly, you can't rely on what Iran says either. Remember, Iran may agree that it's not going to launch direct attacks against Israel or the United States, but Iran traditionally exercises power, in lethal power, through its proxies. Its proxies inside Lebanon, its proxies inside Iraq. And so this is still going to be a very dangerous moment. Let's hope that this is a ceasefire that is real. Let's hope that this is an end, at least temporarily, to the hostilities. But let's also understand that Iran has agreed to a lot of things over the years because of the way in which it uses these terrorist groups, which are spread out all across the region, that are very close to U.S. forces. Anything official out of Tehran probably isn't worth, much more than the paper that it's written on.
Well, I mean, of course, you're also in the context of, we understand the Ayatollah is in a bunker because Netanyahu said he could take him out at any time, and Trump has talked about regime change. So does that mean that that's all over? Regime change is off the table? I mean, I'm only saying this in the context of some things are impossible to put back in the bottle. Sometimes when people show you who they are, they've shown you who they are. And it seems that we have passed such.
Yeah, I think this assessment from Seamus is not entirely correct. The reason why I say this is because Iran does not have the smoke. They've shown that time and time again. They do not want further war. They do not want more bombing campaigns in Tehran, no matter what. That's it. As I said from the start, that any fucking off-ramp that America gives to Iran, Iran will take. And they did. Any off-ramp.
Range, this might get worse for the United States, not better. So, we still don't even have all the facts to know how impactful this strike was, but it certainly is going to alter the calculus of the Iranian regime.
Right, and of course the ceasefire is a pause to, I mean, we hear obviously leveled in the Ukraine war all the time, would be a pause to rebuild. But to your point about this enrichment, the Vice President, J.D. Vance.
Iran has been 100% within their rights under international law. Oh, 100%. Yeah, Chris Murphy is fucking out of his mind for stating this. It's just a complete distortion of the truth.
Highly enriched uranium is located, right? I mean, do they know they destroyed it? Do they even know where it is, right? Here's how he answered the question.
I think that's actually not the question before us. The question before us is, can Iran enrich the uranium to a weapons-grade level? Our goal was to bury the uranium, and I do think the uranium is buried, but our goal was to eliminate the enrichment and eliminate their ability to convert that enriched fuel into a nuclear weapon.
So, Senator, he very clearly did not say that he knew where the uranium was, which would mean that, obviously, that would flow from there to not know how much there was or its state. Do you think that we know what we need to know here?
Okay, the old man is doing the rounds on the media again. He's calling the journalists again. President Trump spoke to me about the ceasefire deal in an exclusive interview. He said, "It's a great day for America. It's a great day for the Middle East. I'm very happy to have been able to get the job done. A lot of people were dying, and it was only going to get worse." When asked how long the ceasefire would be, President Trump said, "I think the ceasefire is unlimited. It's going to go forever." When asked if the war was completely over, he said, yes, I don't believe they will ever be shooting at each other again. President Trump also said that of the conflict with Iran, it would have brought the whole Middle East down. He added this about the ceasefire deal. It's a wonderful day for the world, in my opinion. Okay, I need to make something clear here. Here was a really cool way that Trump could have avoided all of this. Telling Israel not to strike Iran. Because we have only, at best, set the time frame back. Yeah, frame drops, I know. We have only set the time frame back to 12 days ago, and there's been a lot in those 12 days that's bad for both Iran and Israel. So this is not a W. Why are people, who the fuck would look at this and go, that's cool, this is actually dope? Unless somehow this also, through back channels, is telling Israel to just cut it out with fucking Gaza or some shit, which I heavily doubt. There was no W here at all. Trump allowed this event to unfold. He created chaos. People were like, this is the worst type of chaos. What the fuck are you doing? And then 12 days later, he was like, all right, chaos over. Look, I saved it. It's like, but you started it. You let the chaos happen. You fucking let the chaos happen for 12 days only to turn around and I guess like stop even more chaos from taking place. Like, how is this a W? This is the same principle behind the fucking tariff stuff. Like, this is the same shit. Oh, I'm going to do maximum tariffs. Okay, I'm not going to do maximum tariffs. Oh, you're fucking brilliant, sir. Thank you so much. How many more times does this have to happen? The only way I see this, the only way I what I feel like took place is Israel's air defenses are diminished, and we'll see if Iran actually retaliates in this last barrage of missiles. We'll see how much the Israeli air defenses are diminished. Okay? But if the only thing I can foresee happening here is that Israel's air defenses were so diminished, and America did not have appetite for further war with Iran, and therefore I guess they had to cool off a little bit before they could re-up on their air defenses, and then Israel will most likely try it again. What does this mean? Israel told the U.S., first we strike. Only after a victory can the right agreement follow. That was the IDF's approach with Hezbollah and Lebanon, and now again with Iran. It appears to have worked for the second time. What? Is it all just fake news to distract people from the fact that ISIS is deporting people? No. That's secondary. That has nothing. The distraction stuff is so silly because, like, this is a severe escalation. Like, World War III cannot be a distraction from ICE deportations. You know what I mean? And now there's several large explosions being reported in Taji, north of Baghdad. Radar equipment in the U.S. base in Taji camp were destroyed with drones.
رجع تفتر باع خطايا ذول الرادار شلون ضربوه طلع.
No, it's not a false flag. Guys, the ceasefire hasn't been finalized yet. Iran still has Iran still has like 4.5 hours to retaliate against Israel, and this is Iraq anyway. Israel's Channel 12 reports that Prime Minister Netanyahu instructed ministers at the end of a 4-hour cabinet meeting not to comment on the latest developments until further notice. Aren't you proud of our country? You live here, dude. And Iran was gearing up to build nukes. And their government hates America. What more do you need? No, I'm not proud of my country. Why would I be proud of my country? These past 12 days were not a moment of pride. It was a shameful experience. More than 600 Iranians, until this last batch of bombings took place, more than 600 Iranians were killed, thousands injured. On the Israel side, 25 plus Israelis were killed, hundreds injured. Some of them were, having panic attacks, which the Israeli government considers an injury. And none of that had to happen at all, because what you think was Iran gearing up to build nukes was just a lie that you decided to believe. They did not. If anything, they might now. They probably won't, because they are, like I said, restrained to a fault. But they weren't before. As a panic attack haver, do not be ableist. I'm sorry. You cannot fucking consider war casualties. You cannot add panic attacks into the number of casualties of war. Okay? Yeah, it's really fucked up. When bombs are flying overhead, you're going to have a panic attack. Many people will. That's insane. That's an insane way to do stat padding. There's like children whose legs are chopped off or stuck under the rubble and will never be the same again. And you're adding fucking someone having a panic attack into that number, because that's what a casualty is. That's casualty numbers are like, people that have been severely, gravely injured, almost. They didn't die, but they almost died. Are you saying that Iran had no intention of obtaining a nuclear bomb? Iran has imperialist agendas too. I don't care if Iran has imperialist agendas or not. There is no intelligence that shows that Iran was on the verge of making a nuclear weapon. There's none. It's just made up. And they didn't even do a good job making it up. So I don't understand where you're coming from. Like, this is what's so frustrating about this process, is that it's not like the American government even had like a Colin Powell moment. Like, they didn't even like go on the national stage with like a trustworthy individual and go to the UN and be like, we have serious information that they have fucking nukes or anything like that. They just basically were like, yeah, Israel told us they have nukes. We believe them. That's it. That's it. Like, they didn't even try hard, and motherfuckers are still believing in it. That's what's so crazy about it. Marco Rubio literally on national television said, it doesn't matter if Iran is making nukes or not. No, it does matter. That's the most important part of this. Reports are now suggesting that surface-to-air missile launcher and radar site were targeted and are now burning at Camp Taji on the north of the Iraqi capital of Baghdad. Is this the America-hating Twitch stream? No. This is the actual America-loving Twitch stream. I want America to do better. I want America to do better for you, dumb fuck. Like, I'm doing all right. If anything, I want America to do right by you. And it's so weird to me that motherfuckers that are having a tough go at it are just like sitting around posturing angrily and going, no, you don't understand. I don't deserve health care. I'm a cuck. I don't deserve health care. Every dollar should go to Israel. Like, what is this? Like, do you have no dignity? Do you have no interest? Do you have no self-preservation skills? I don't get it. Why are you yelling at me? It makes no sense. What is this? Iran's Ayatollah reportedly in a bunker refuses to surrender?
He is currently the head of the judiciary. He's been very aligned with the IRGC for a number of years, so he's very conservative.
What
so
is happening on CNN?
Kind of viewed as the security candidate. He's 68 years old. And the third is Mohsen Iraqi. He's a former religious advisor to the Supreme Leader. He would be viewed as kind of a traditionalist candidate and really putting more emphasis on the religious legitimacy of the regime. I think it's important to appreciate that all of these gentlemen are about my age. They're in their 60s, upper 60s here, and they were all young men, 20, 21 years old when the revolution took place back in 1979. So they've seen this through that lens for
what is going
the bulk
on?
of their adult lives, and I think are all very much committed to the same principles that the current Supreme Leader is.
A continuation, not a change. The Ayatollah's son was once top of the list, but according to the New York Times, no longer on it. What do you think of that?
Well, I think.
What do they know that we don't know? Is this are they just like wish casting? Like, what's happening?
Excluded him
Is there a
largely
coup?
because he didn't necessarily like the idea of family ruling here. So I think he kind of excluded him. You know, another candidate that was mentioned, of course, was Hassan Khomeini, who was the grandson of the founder of Ayatollah Khomeini, who is viewed as a reformist. He's much younger. He's 52. Khamenei's son is 55, so they are a little bit younger, but a little bit more of a reformist on the Khomeini there. But of course he has the name and has that the respect and everything that goes along with that.
And all just so important, though, to consider that, you never know what happens till it happens. But that is a continuation and just a sense of how deep these layers are. And General Votel, I am grateful for your time and thank you. As our breaking news coverage continues from the banks of the Strait of Hormuz, here, a crucial waterway. Nearly a quarter of the world's oil travels behind me. Iran threatening as part of its intensification to shut this down. Plus new information just in on the high-stakes 18-hour U.S. mission to take out some of Iran's nuclear facilities. One complete with mid-air refuelings, a series of...
What? By the way, no other outlet is talking about this.
I know it's very late there.
About?
The last time we spoke, you were saying it would be very difficult to get reaction from Iranian officials at this hour. But has anything new emerged when it comes to this announcement by Donald Trump that a ceasefire had been reached between Iran and Israel?
Yes, the new emerging development on the ground here in Tehran is more of sounds of explosion that we can hear related to the interception of flying objects by the air defense system. Also, we sensed a relatively massive explosion here at the Bureau before we start this live coverage. A few minutes ago, we just sensed the impact of explosion. But still, speaking of your question, we haven't received any confirmation about any deal being reached between Iran and the United States about a possible ceasefire that we heard from the U.S. President Donald Trump. We have to keep waiting for confirmation of whether or not Iran is going to accept that. But still, the reality on the ground, as I told you earlier, was that we've received this strong messages by the Iranian military officials saying that as long as Israeli strikes continue, and right now what we see is the continuation of these strikes, Iran is not going to stop there. Iran is going to strike back to respond to actually Israeli strikes, and now we see this continuation. So with that said, we're not sure whether Iran is going to accept any deal for ceasefire regarding this latest developments that we can see. Also, I told you earlier, we've got this statement from the Supreme Leader of the country, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, a couple of days ago, who came out in a video message saying that we're not going to accept any imposed peace. And the question here is that whether Iran is going to interpret this proposal
That we allocated nearly all the B-2 bombers in existence and used more than half of our GBU-57s to strike this sovereign country on behalf of the genocidal apartheid shows how far we've come in acting like their proxy. No, you don't understand. It was a big W because we don't even know if it actually successfully destroyed Fordow. Okay? We don't know if we don't even know if they actually successfully destroyed Fordow. And also on top of that, we know for a fact that we didn't get any of the fucking enriched uranium. And, you know, great stuff. Great stuff overall. It seems like crazy how much Hassan loves Iran. No, man. This isn't about, first of all, of course, I have no fucking issue with Iran. What the fuck is your issue? What has Iran done to you? I don't want the Iranian people to die, do you? What's wrong? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with your fucking brain? I don't want anybody to die. Why are you seeing everything from this like incredibly narrow lens where you're like, nope, there's good and then there's bad? The Iranian government is evil. Motherfucker, we're evil. Does that mean we should get nuked? We're far more evil than fucking the Iranian government is. What do you mean? The Iranian government is evil. Why? Because they are a repressive regime, right? They're a repressive regime. They hurt their own population. Okay, so do we. And we hurt a fuck ton more people outside of our own population. Should we get fucking nuked? I don't think so. I don't want to get nuked. Well, sometimes I do, because sometimes I'm like, God damn. What is this argument? Does the U.S. hang gay people? Sometimes. They have different methods of execution, not on the basis of being gay, but yeah, we still fucking kill people all the time. What are you talking about? Oh, sorry, those people deserve it, right? Even if they're found innocent after the fact. Dumbass. We kill mentally ill people all the time. Our Supreme Court loves the facilitation of lethal execution for mentally ill people nonstop. It's like the favorite hobby of the Supreme Court. Time-honored tradition. I've been to jail during Maza administration protests, and I still don't want to be bombed. This will make the regime tighten grip. Any military action will make the life of Iranian civilians worse. Only a diplomatic and civil solution is viable. Iranian chatter and longtime Hasanabi head here. I want to live and watch Hasanabi broadcasts every day. I've been to jail during the Maza administration protests, and I still don't want to be bombed. Exactly. But good luck explaining that to these dumb fuck Americans that are baying for blood. They can't comprehend that. They can't be like, oh, but the Iranian people don't like their fucking government, and their government is acting in a way that is not in accordance with the best interests of the citizens. Okay, let's bomb them. Is the most idiotic argument, but it's the only argument for Americans. They're so disgusting. Some Americans are. You know? It's fucking ridiculous. If anything, civil struggle becomes impossible when the population is too worried about getting fucking bombed by a foreign entity. A foreign entity that they've watched ethnically cleanse the entire population of Gaza. Like, what are we talking about? Can't wait to liberate the Iranian women from the treacherous grip of the Islamic Republic by assassinating them, by blowing up their homes, by killing their children. This is going to liberate them big time. I can't believe that we are living in the ashes of the failure that was the war on terror, and there are still Americans who fucking eat this propaganda completely. They just go, no, that's the only way to do it. It's not just the Americans. The Pahlavis Iranian diaspora are also asking for the same thing. It doesn't matter. They're fucking, they serve no purpose other than chirp. It's idiotic. Okay, so do the fucking Cubans that want Cuba to be bombed. So do Miami Cubans. They chirp up about how little we've bombed Cuba on a fucking yearly basis. Does that mean we should bomb Cuba? No.
Day as well, there were Israeli officials saying that because of the pressure from President Trump, the Israelis were now trying to wrap all of this up by the end of the week. This is before the announcement from the American president. So it's still a little bit unclear where we stand now because there has been no word from Israeli officials.
All right, that's Al Jazeera's Hamda Sahoud joining us live from Amman in Jordan. Thanks so much, Hamda. Joining us live now from Washington, D.C. is national.
Don't fucking lose it. Trump called his favorite Israeli agent, Barak Ravid. President Trump just told me in a phone call, this is the end of the war. This is a great and wonderful thing for Israel and the world. Someone should inform the fucking Iranian citizens in Tehran that are currently experiencing explosions. Hey, guys, you've been liberated. We don't like the administration, but getting bombed from the fucking genocidal regime, hell no. Good luck. Like I'm saying, there are a fuck ton of Iranians in here. I mean, obviously, I hear you. I'm trying to explain to Americans who will never listen that it is insane that this idea that like bombing Iran is going to allow the Iranians to feel liberty once again is the same exact dumb fuck bullshit that we said in Iraq. It's the same thing that we said in Afghanistan, same thing we said in Iraq. It's the same thing Israel said in Gaza. It's so stupid, but it doesn't matter. It's a lie, but it doesn't even fucking matter, okay? Because that's just a lie for like the dumbest people to repeat over and over again. I don't think anybody like serious believes that shit. I don't even think this is a fell for it again award, honestly. If you were willing to entertain this idea that the people feel safer when they're being bombed by a foreign entity, then you're the most easily tricked adult of all time. Didn't bomb civilians, strategical strike on nuclear facilities that intend to create overall herd, multiple countries, USA being number one. No, it's not. That's not true. There's another lie that you just believed for no reason. That's the WMD lie. Just like Saddam had WMDs and he was willing to use it on America is the lie that the American government told to invade Iraq. That is also a lie. Okay? It was not a fucking strategical strike on nuclear facilities. First of all, that in and of itself is already a war crime. I like that we have decided that fucking nuclear power plants and nuclear facilities are just now open targets. What do you think would have happened if the United States actually